Chapter 269 Li is good. Chen is bad. Including the Flame Thunderblade, an imperial weapon, Nangong Chen now has a total of 11 imperial weapons in his hands. If it were placed in the 3,000 Dao states of the upper realm, it would be enough to create an immortal force. What's more, he has thousands of saintly weapons and hundreds of immortal weapons in his hands. It is not an exaggeration to say that he has an arsenal of weapons. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen's mouth curled up slightly. Now he can be considered to have some assets. Soon, he turned his attention to the remaining elixir and the imperial swordsmanship. Qingling Immortal Grass is one of the 10 immortal herbs. It can revive the dead, turn bones into flesh, and instantly restore people to peak condition. It is a top-level healing elixir. The immortal art of 10,000 swords is an astonishing imperial sword technique, and its creator is the renowned Qinglian Sword Emperor. When the cultivation is perfected, one can control tens of thousands of swords. The power is superimposed with a number of swords. With a maximum of tens of thousands of swords, one can slay immortals and kill gods, unleashing astonishing sword power. Both of these are good stuff. Nangong Chen's eyes flashed with a gleam, and he thought to himself, the Qingling Immortal Grass is extremely rare and a top-level healing elixir. It is one of the relatively rare spiritual plants he is currently cultivating and can be placed in the Tianyuan spiritual steel for continued mass production. Thinking of this, he put the Qingling Immortal Grass into the Tianyuan spiritual steel. As for the 10,000 swords immortal technique, he understood it clearly. The more swords he had, the stronger he would be. He could stack the power of each sword. If one sword could kill one god king, then 10,000 swords could kill 10,000 god kings. It's terrifying, but it requires a high level of mastery of the swordsmanship, and you also need to have a lot of swords. This is a perfect match for him. Coincidentally, his Xianxian sect inheritance contains quite a few weapons, of which swords are the largest, accounting for 1/3 of the total. If it were an ordinary genius without a strong background, he would not be able to support such a high-energy sword technique, but he is different, he can definitely afford it. Nangong Chen's eyes became brighter, and he liked this sword technique even more. Su Li, standing aside, had her silver hair fluttering, and her beautiful face was also looking at the reward in front of her. An exquisite jade bottle, containing 3 drops of true phoenix blood, exudes overwhelming phoenix power. Around it, one can see the strange sight of a true phoenix flapping its wings, which is extremely terrifying. The strength of these 3 drops of true phoenix blood essence was much richer and purer than the phoenix blood ferocious beast blood essence she had previously cultivated. They were completely on a different level. Moreover, Su Li could also feel that the vitality of these 3 drops of essence and blood was very strong. It did not seem like they were kept by the other party until now. It was more like they were taken away by a real phoenix that was injured on a whim. Just 1 drop is enough to transform her physique. It can even allow the true phoenix technique to enter the next stage. At the same time, if you can completely digest this drop, I'm afraid you can become a saint. And now she has 3 drops in her hand. Even she herself doesn't know what level her strength will reach if she absorbs them all. Thinking of this, Su Li thought of Nangong Chen, wondering if he needed a drop of true phoenix blood. The immortal weapon was a snow-white long sword, emitting a chilling aura that was extremely domineering, and the sword intent was extremely cold and surging. Why is it suddenly so cold? As if someone is holding a sword to my neck. After some geniuses felt it, they trembled with cold, felt fear in their hearts, and looked over here with trembling eyes. Su Li ignored her and stroked the snow-white sword. The snow-slaying sword responded to her, emitting bursts of crisp sword sounds. It was obvious that both parties were very satisfied. Zhang Shui. As for the elixir that Su Li was rewarded with, it was also used to heal wounds and save lives. Su Li was quite happy about this. After all, if Nangong Chen got injured in the future, she could give it to him. As for that immortal-level martial art, it was a palm technique created by a true immortal from the extreme earth, and it was also extremely powerful. Soon, Su Li finished sorting out all the harvest. She looked at Nangong Chen beside her and said softly, "These 3 drops of true phoenix blood are too precious. They will greatly improve your strength. Why don't you absorb 1 drop and see the effect?" Oh, Nangong Chen was stunned for a moment, and then his pupils lit up as he looked at the drop of true phoenix blood. He saw that the drop of phoenix blood contained terrifying energy, and there was a ferocious phoenix in it, looking at him. The divine power emanating from those phoenix eyes made him feel a little moved, as if he saw an almighty divine phoenix, with flames bursting from its body, standing above the 9 heavens, overlooking all things. 10,000 beasts are paying homage to him, and just a wisp of energy bursting out in the picture can even destroy a saint. However, this is just a drop of blood. It is hard to imagine that if a real phoenix really descended, the pressure from it would probably be enough to shock everyone present to death. Is this the real phoenix? Nangong Chen was greatly shocked, but did not refuse Su Li's kindness and took one of the bottles of essence blood. For him, if he could absorb this drop of essence and blood, his strength would also improve by leaps and bounds. This would be more nutritious than those holy medicines and immortal medicines. Seeing this, Su Li raised the corners of her mouth slightly. Knowing that it was useful to Nangong Chen, she wanted to give him one of the remaining 2 bottles. For herself, 1 bottle was enough. Yes. Su Li took out another bottle and stretched out her fair jade hand, wanted to hand it to him. Her dark eyebrows were curved, and her ice blue eyes were shining. On her perfect face, the corners of her mouth were secretly raised. It's like a little girl wanting praise from others. Nangong Chen was also amused by the other party's cuteness. He knocked Su Li's head and said with a smile, "Why do I need so much? For me, there is no difference between 1 drop and 2 drops. It doesn't make much difference." Su Li was hit by this, pursed her red lips, felt a little aggrieved, and lowered her head. "Li is good, Chen is bad." Then, Nangong Chen's laughter rang out again. "As for you, you need this true phoenix blood essence to cultivate your true phoenix treasure technique. Taking just 1 drop from you is enough. I'm still waiting for you to become stronger and protect me." After hearing this, Su Li raised her head. Her beautiful eyes suddenly brightened up and she smiled, a smile so beautiful that it was breathtaking. Even though it was just a joke made by the other party, Su Li took it seriously and secretly swore in his heart that he must become stronger and protect the other party in the future. At the same time, in the outside world, after Nangong Chen and the others stepped into the battlefield of heaven and earth, the projected image fell into darkness. This also caused dissatisfaction among the onlookers. "Bull demons, why is it broken again? Fuck, you cut me off when I was having the most fun. Give me my money back." How did the Chu family do things? Didn't they agree to show us? They're not watching secretly now, are they? Why are you here again? I don't think we paid. Just as there was a commotion, suddenly, the projection lit up again. Seeing this scene, the whole audience fell silent in an instant. It's lit. No, it seems like it was pitch black just now. In other words, we have misunderstood the Chu family. Never mind, never mind. The misunderstanding hasn't been going on for just 1 or 2 days. As the darkness gradually dissipated, the scene of the battlefield between heaven and earth appeared before everyone's eyes, causing everyone to exclaim in surprise. The picture in the projection was a sky full of stars, with geniuses standing on the galaxy. In the center, there was a starry sky arena formed by the stars, which was very shocking to watch. Is this what the legendary battlefield of heaven and earth looks like? Someone lost his voice. But soon, everyone shifted their attention to those geniuses. Some people noticed that as soon as the man with double pupils and the ice phoenix goddess appeared, the entire battlefield of heaven and earth became quiet in an instant. Even the remaining geniuses from other domains looked at the 2 men with fear, which made everyone feel relieved. They also knew that this was because the one with double pupils had blown up the entire immortal treasure in the first round, causing countless casualties among the geniuses from other domains. But this did not stop them from laughing, and there was a look of joy in their eyes. "This is hilarious. Who still remembers how they looked at us from Tianyuan territory during the sea crossing? Why are they all so afraid to speak now? Ha, have you forgotten? Those arrogant and domineering giants in the wilderness have no idea how tall the grass is on their graves. How dare they speak? Aren't the gods very arrogant? They even said they wanted to take the heads of those with double pupils. I think they are good at being scared to death." Even the powerful ones in the void were delighted when they saw this. They stroked their beards and watched leisurely. "Well, this time we're lucky to have someone with double pupils. Otherwise, how could we have dampened their spirits like this? You're used to seeing them being arrogant, but now you know what a ruthless person is. Those with double pupils are truly extraordinary and brave. This is the first time in all these thousands of years that I've seen them so frightened." However, soon, the people from the God clan and the few remaining Buddhist disciples in the picture began to attack the one with double pupils, which made everyone watching worried. Fortunately, the person with double pupils was not afraid at all, but responded domineeringly. "All right, stop pretending. Anyone who dislikes me and wants to kill me, I'll fight them all in the second round." As soon as these words were spoken, many young girls in the crowd screamed, and even some young men became excited and looked at Nangong Chen with admiration, obviously conquered by his charm. They in Tianyuan territory haven't been so high-spirited for a long time. Of course, this was just a small episode. What everyone was more concerned about was the ranking of those with double pupils and what exactly the stone tablet standing in the starry sky was. Fortunately, a figure appeared at that moment, and it was the supreme power they had seen before, the Star Messenger. After the Star Envoy arrived, the first thing he did was to announce the rankings. When everyone saw this ranking, their pupils couldn't help but shrink, as if they had seen a ghost. Fuck, how many points is that? Tens, hundreds, tens, or even 50 million points. Even the Ice Phoenix goddess scored over 45 million points. Oh, I see. It must have been given by someone with double pupils. Oh my god, these two have such a great relationship. No, why is the third place only 353,400 points? That's tens of millions less. Is this the points you get after exploding a treasure chest? It's simply unattainable. The onlookers exclaimed in amazement, their tone filled with shock. To be ranked first or second among the 10 regions, what an honor it is. Since ancient times, there seems to have never been such a shocking ranking. Not to mention that these two people are still in the gap and stepping on the behind. The further down the rankings go, the more respect people have for Nangong Chen. If the other party had not used that incredible method, how could so many geniuses have entered the top 50 on normal days? Not to mention, almost all of those who survived this time made it, a total of more than a dozen people. This also made the forces where the geniuses belonged to burst into tears of gratitude towards Nangong Chen after seeing this, unable to express their gratitude enough, and treated him as a guest of honor. An old leader of the Qilin sect even said bluntly, in the future, those with double pupils will be honored guests of the Qilin sect. If anyone wants to touch them, they should ask me whether the Qilin sect agrees. Not only that, right after that, the Jiang family, the Liu family, the Astronomical Holy Land, the Tianbao Pavilion, and the Chucheng Wang family all spoke out. One stone can cause 1,000 ripples. If anyone wants to harm Nangong Chen in the future, they have to think carefully. In the void, when Fen Dao saw this scene, he clenched his fists and his face turned blue with anger. Damn, what a bunch of useless fence-sitters. As for why those people were not afraid of the man with double pupils provoking the Venerable One from the upper realm, it all started when the other party displayed the formation to enter the Tao. The formation method is simply too terrifying. Some people even say that the person with double pupils is also the reincarnation of a powerful person from the upper realm. If the Venerable is not stupid, he will definitely not be his enemy. There is even a greater possibility that the two of them will become friends. Of course, this does not rule out the fact that Prince Ao Long is extremely important to the supreme being of the upper realm. The current Fen Dao couldn't believe that Prince Ao Long was an important person to the Venerable. After half a year, he would settle accounts with all of these people, and that hateful kid would be punished. At the same time, Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. When the people on the street saw the rankings, their eyes widened. After a few moments of silence, they burst into unparalleled cheers. The Crown Prince is awesome, the Goddess is awesome, the first and second place in points are well-deserved. This time, the prince and his wife have really brought honor to our divine dynasty. If we tell others that we are the people of Tianyuan, I'm afraid others will be envious to death. Just talking about the bombing of the immortal treasure, how many people in history could have done it? It had to be the Crown Prince. His talent and intelligence are too monstrous. At this moment, high-ranking officials from all forces, big and small, throughout the divine dynasty entered the palace to celebrate. For a time, the court was filled with people coming in an endless stream, and the gifts piled up like a mountain. When Nangong Chen saw this scene, a smile appeared on his face, and it was obvious that he was very happy. Just based on Nangong Chen and Su Li taking the first and second spots, it's hard to tell how much momentum they could create for the divine dynasty. Chapter 270, The Temple of Inheritance. The battlefield of heaven and earth. If that human race hadn't taken advantage of me, first place would have been mine. Damn it. Xianjie looked at the reward in his hand. After comparing it with Nangong Chen and the other two, he suddenly felt less interested and gritted his teeth. Zunf, who was standing by, didn't react much. She just silently put the thing in her hand back into the storage ring. For her, the dust has settled, and no matter how much she refuses to accept it, it will all be in vain. Might as well start preparing for the second round. As for the Buddhist disciple, although he was dissatisfied in his heart, he suppressed his emotions and showed joy after seeing the reward in his hand. All in all, everyone here has gained a lot of good things. Soon, after Hu Yaoyao finished counting the rewards in her hand, her beautiful eyes gleamed, and she seemed a little reluctant to part with them. She murmured, 15 heavenly grade weapons, 15 heavenly grade elixirs, 3 saintly weapons, 3 holy medicines. It's still a lot, what a waste. Even if she was reluctant, she couldn't go back on her word. Soon, Hu Yaoyao put it in a storage ring, looked at Nangong Chen, and said softly, "My lord, this is what I promised you." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked over here with extremely fiery eyes. Damn, what a gift. To say this ring is priceless is no exaggeration. They are not stupid, and they can guess from the rankings that the rewards their demon clan will receive must be extremely generous. After all, the only relatively intact race here is the demon race, and even in the Xintian realm, many people died. Soon, under the gaze of everyone, the storage ring passed through the barrier between domains and easily reached Nangong Chen's hands. Nangong Chen looked indifferent, not as happy as imagined. After a quick inventory and confirming that everything was correct, he nodded slightly. Good, although it is not a lot. After all, a mosquito is still meat no matter how small it is, and can be added to his arsenal. This was an unexpected surprise for him. After all, these geniuses were not his target from the beginning. His goal had always been the entire immortal treasure. Bombing other people is just a matter of convenience. After hearing the other party's praise, Hu Yaoyao raised the corners of her mouth slightly and licked her red lips. She was very charming and enchanting, and her almond-shaped eyes kept looking at the other party. This handsome face is really something I never get tired of looking at. It makes me feel much better after seeing it. Okay, forgive me for asking for such a high price. Hu Yaoyao thought to herself that she had a much stronger fondness for Nangong Chen. She was about to say something to tease him, but suddenly she felt her body tremble. What's going on? Why is it suddenly cold? There was some confusion on Hu Yaoyao's beautiful face. She turned around and saw the beautiful white-haired woman next to the other person, who was looking at her with hostility. The corners of Hu Yaoyao's mouth twitched, and she suddenly realized. Didn't she say it yet? Is it necessary for her to look at me like this? TSK. Human women are so stingy that they can't even share their partners. Hu Yaoyao muttered softly, with some regret in her beautiful eyes, and then turned and left. Su Li then snorted coldly and crossed her arms over her chest. As a woman herself, she naturally knew what the other person was thinking. In front of her, you want to steal my girlfriend? You want to seduce my man? Dream on. She could accept that an outstanding man like Nangong Chen had many companions, but the prerequisite was that she had to like them, and moreover, she had to be the main wife. A slutty girl like the one opposite her has seduced many men at first glance, so she won't let her succeed. Su Li thought to herself, looking at the other person's slim and charming back, and became more alert. No, she had to keep an eye on Nangong Chen. It had to be said that even as a woman, she was somewhat affected by his charm. Nangong Chen, who was standing aside, was still looking at his own arsenal. When he came to his senses, he saw that the other party had already walked away and did not notice anything wrong. Stay away from that woman. At this moment, a mosquito-like voice sounded from beside him. If it weren't for his strong strength and amazing five senses, he probably wouldn't be able to hear it clearly. Nangong Chen was stunned for a moment, looked at Su Li, and followed her gaze, just in time to see that graceful figure. No, don't worry. Nangong Chen smiled slightly and said confidently. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost settled, the star envoy spoke. The next 3 days will be your rest time. After 3 days, the second round of trials in the immortal treasure will begin. The battlefield of heaven and earth. Then, Xingqian paused, as if he had thought of something, and said slowly, because your session is quite special, I have decided to grant all of you the qualification to enter the second round of trials in order to ensure your full enjoyment. Same old rules. In the second round, the top 10 will be able to enter the Heritage Temple and seek the inheritance of the sages. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, as if they had heard something incredible. Everyone advances to the second round. What a crazy decision. If it were as before, only 25 people would be able to advance to the second round. Now, there are a total of 42 people here, and all of them can compete for the ranking. This is undoubtedly a great surprise for those who are outside the top 25, because in the competition, if they are lucky and draw a weaker genius, they may be able to enter the top 10 by chance. As for those who made it into the top 25, although their faces looked a little ugly, they could still accept it. For them, it didn't make much difference whether they met these people or not. In other words, the probability of drawing a weak one is greater. Of course, if you can enter the top 10 and have the qualifications to enter the Inheritance Temple, you will be extremely lucky and obtain the inheritance of a powerful person. From then on, you will be on the rise. Seeing that some people were confused, the Star Envoy quickly explained the Heritage Temple and said slowly, the top 10 this time will have a chance to enter the Heritage Temple. Of course, I can't guarantee that you will be selected by those who inherit the legacy after entering the Heritage Temple. It all depends on your luck and talent. Before this, there were even cases where not a single person out of 10 was chosen. As for the other rounds, if only one person was chosen, you were considered lucky. If you had 2, you were in for a surprise. Among those geniuses, there are many who are even more monstrous than you. As for the likes of you, if you could be selected by 1 or 2, it would be considered quite good. Xingqian's tone was somewhat meaningful, as if there was a hint of disdain in it. He had seen too many geniuses who came here. If he hadn't liked this group, he wouldn't have said so much. At this moment, after hearing this, the geniuses present clench their fists and wish they could go to the other person, lift his neck and ask, "What do you mean?" However, due to the other party's identity, they could only think about it and did not dare to actually do it. Otherwise, if the other party, as the referee, accidentally canceled their place in the second round, who would they go to cry to? What a shame that I won't be chosen. I want to see how difficult this inheritance temple is. After hearing this, Xuanjia also said proudly, "The Son of God has incredible talent, and his inheritance is at least above the 7-star level. When the time comes, I will give him a good slap in the face. That's too low. In my opinion, the Son of God should be able to obtain an 8-star inheritance, and the same goes for Zunf. They are both the hope of our God clan." Several people around him echoed. After hearing this, Xianjia nodded slightly, agreeing with their words. With his talent, obtaining inheritance above the 7 stars would not be a problem at all. Thinking of this, Xuanjia's mood could not help but improve a lot, and he started to defend himself for not saving them before. "That's right. In the first round, it wasn't that I was heartless and didn't save you. I had anticipated that Zun would take action, so I left first. Now it seems that my rescue of you was not in vain. But don't worry, as for the revenge of the other clansmen, if I encounter that brat in the second round, I, Xianjia, will definitely avenge him." After he finished speaking, he looked at Nangong Chen with confidence in his eyes. At this moment, Nangong Chen ignored the other party. His eyes flashed as he thought about the Temple of Inheritance. He now completely understood what this heritage temple was all about. Before this, he had never understood. The Temple of Inheritance is the inheritance left by the invincible strongmen in the 9 heavens throughout history. The lowest standard is above the level of becoming an immortal. In that temple, there are a total of thousands of stars, and each star represents the inheritance of a strong man. Of course, among these inheritances, there are good and bad ones, and the grades are divided into 9 stars. 1 star is the lowest level, and it is for those who have entered the realm of true immortals. Compared with other true immortals, their inheritance is a little backward. However, this does not mean that any genius can be chosen. Since ancient times, those who have been able to become immortals are all geniuses among geniuses. Their standards are so high that even a 1-star rating might not look down on them. If he can be selected, it will prove that this genius is one of the most outstanding ones. 1 star to 5 stars are all inheritances of true immortals, and the best among them are. As for the 5 stars to 9 stars, they are all inherited from the immortal king. Even if they don't know the realm after the saint, they can guess that the immortal king must be above the true immortal. As for the 9 stars inheritance, it is known as a peerless inheritance and is extremely rare. Since ancient times, almost no one has been able to activate it. Those who can activate it are all the most dazzling geniuses of that era. Of course, those who could be listed as the 9th grade inheritance by the Heritage Temple are all supreme beings in the long river of history. In the 9 heavens and 10 realms, there are people who praise their names. For example, when she was at the Immortal King level, she could instantly kill a girl with double pupils who was also an Immortal King at the same level with just a glance. She was almost the most dazzling genius of that generation, and also a legendary woman who rose from the Xintian realm and swept all the way to the 9 heavens. This is why, in later generations, people have been praising the saying, "Double pupils open up the world," and there has been no defeat in the world since ancient times. The person being talked about is none other than the girl with double pupils, and it was she who earned her reputation with her double pupils. However, according to later records, after the girl with double pupils became the Immortal King, she left behind a legacy and then stepped into a land of nothingness, never to be seen again. Several eras have passed, and no one knows whether the girl with double pupils is dead or alive. No one knows either, and gradually, everyone assumes that she has already died in an unknown place. Only this kind of existence can leave behind the 9-star heritage in the place of inheritance. The purpose of Nangong Chen's visit this time is for his inheritance, the double pupil opening the sky, which was discovered by this person through exploration and understanding. It is the ultimate mystery of the double pupil and the ultimate sublimation. His current grasp of the double pupils is not complete. He can sense that his development of the double pupils has just begun. If he wants to fully study it, his own tinkering is not as direct as the experience of his predecessors. Especially, there is such a being among the ancient sages. He must obtain the other party's inheritance. This is extremely important for his future path and can save him many unnecessary steps. Nangong Chen's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. However, whether he could gain that person's approval was still unknown, and he was not completely sure. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Whether or not to agree was up to the other party. If they didn't agree, then at worst he could just figure out on his own. He believed that he might not be any worse than the girl with the double pupils. It would just be a little more troublesome. Soon, Nangong Chen's thoughts returned to what the Star Envoy had just said. There was a woman who left a deep impression on him. Her name seemed to be Qi Yao. She was the legendary Fire Phoenix Divine Body, and her physique was exactly the opposite of Su Li's. According to the Star Envoy, in the previous era, a woman named Qi Yao also achieved the status of an immortal king, stunning the world. However, it seems that she died in the end for unknown reasons. Sadly, she left no legacy at the Heritage Temple. Some people have speculated that if the other party left behind a legacy, its level would most likely start at 8 stars. On the other side, Su Li was stunned, with a complicated expression. She didn't expect to hear the name Qi Yao from the Star Envoy's mouth. I don't know why he died. She clearly remembered that Qi Yao died in battle against several extremely powerful opponents, so powerful that they didn't seem like normal creatures, unimaginable existences. Qi Yao has helped her so much. If she reaches his level in the future, she will definitely avenge him. At this time, everyone felt a little discouraged after learning about the difficulty of being selected by the Heritage Temple. For most people, they were just here to run for the sake of competition, and they had a relatively clear understanding of their own level. Of course, there are also some people who think they have good talents and think that if they enter the top 10, they can at least get a 5-star inheritance. As for the 5 stars and above, they dared not even dream of it. Since ancient times, only a few people have been able to obtain it. Could they be such a being? Obviously not. Soon, someone raised questions. I'd like to ask the Star Envoy. This person is at the quasi-saint realm, and he sneaked in from the Xiantian territory. If he were to advance to the second round, it would be extremely unfair to us. Xuanjie spoke out, speaking righteously, looking at Luanxin in the corner. Chapter 271. Immortal Form, External Reactions. At this moment, in the outside world, after seeing the Star Envoy announce the rankings, everyone seemed very satisfied with the performance of Nangong Chen and the others. They nodded and praised them. That's right. I didn't expect that in this immortal collection, there would be 2 people whose points surpassed the rest, exceeding 10 million. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the people who were watching the projection changed, and their pupils shrank slightly. They did not expect that even such beings would praise people with double pupils. This is enough to prove the terrifying talent of the person with double pupils. Soon, everyone reacted and looked excited. Among the entire 10 domains, only the genius from their Xiantian domain could be praised so highly by such an existence. The being in the projection paused and continued. If you perform well in the second round, even making it into the top 3 of the myriad worlds, ranking won't be a problem. After hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with confusion. What is the list of all worlds? But soon, some older men seemed to recall something and laughed. The myriad worlds list should be the stone tablet in the center of the starry sky. I once saw it 3,000 years ago. Oh, I have some impression too. The 100 geniuses on the myriad realms ranking seem to be some of the most terrifyingly gifted beings in the history of the 10 realms. If they can make it into the top 100, they will bring honor to their family, and their names will be praised throughout the entire Xiantian realm. It is said that the one who appeared before was a monster from the burial heaven realm. He ranked 30th in the last immortal treasure. After hearing the explanations of these old men, the faces of the people present changed slightly. This wasn't that guy, according to Overlord, the champion of the last immortal treasure. With his qualifications, he can only take 30th place. What kind of monsters are the top 10 in the myriad worlds ranking? Of course, this is just their guess, but it is pretty close. Soon, the Star Envoy in the projection spoke slowly, as if explaining something to the genius hidden within. The top 100 have unparalleled talent and will surely step into the ranks of the gods in the future. The top 10 have unparalleled talent and have the potential to become the supreme being. As for the top 3, they are astonishing beings of the epic and have the potential to become immortals. After hearing the Star Envoy's explanation, they were shocked, as if they had heard something incredible. They don't understand what a god is, what the supreme being is, but they know that becoming an immortal is the lifelong goal of countless cultivators, ascetics, and practitioners. They cannot see the end of becoming an immortal, and even seem to have forgotten this word over the years. Above the saints, are there really immortals? After a long while, someone uttered a lost voice, as if he was deeply shocked. Of course, such scenes are not only happening in Chu City, but are also happening all over the Xiantian territory. Some people even secretly swallowed their saliva, wondering if the existence in the projection was also a true immortal. In other words, as long as a genius makes it into the top 3, they can basically become immortals in the future. No, he said there was a chance. Yes, Among the geniuses of the 10 regions, the top 3 selected over countless epochs are only given chance. After everyone reacted, they were all shocked, as if they had heard something incredible. Becoming an immortal was far more difficult than they had imagined. No wonder. I heard from Overlord that if it were him, he would probably have trouble making it into the top 100. Now I understand. Someone seemed to have thought of something and said in a trance. I wonder what the ranking of those with double pupils will be after everything is over. Just then, someone spoke, his eyes full of anticipation. After he finished speaking, the others were also shocked. Yes, there are people with double pupils. Have you forgotten? That Supreme Being just now said that if the Double Pupil Man and the Ice Phoenix Goddess perform well in the second round, they could be in the top 3. Someone seemed to have thought of something and said something to wake them up. When these words were spoken, everyone's faces were filled with horror and their pupils shrank slightly. The top 3 have the potential to become immortals. That means the man with double pupils and the Ice Phoenix Goddess can become immortals if they don't fall. Hiss! They had thought of the terrifying talents of the two, but they had never imagined that it would be so terrifying. Of course, there's a prerequisite for this. That is, the two of them perform well in the second round of the competition. The eyes of that Supreme Being were quite good. I don't know to what extent, but I think it wouldn't be too low. At this time, Qingyu, who was standing in the crowd, was wearing a green dress, standing tall and graceful with a delicate face. She was very conspicuous and attracted the attention of many young male disciples. Young master. He actually has the potential to become an immortal. Qingyu Lingmu was filled with disbelief, and it took her a long time to recover. Qing Fan was not in much better condition either. His face was very excited. He had never imagined that Brother Nangong would be so powerful. Even those beings praised it highly and were even optimistic about it. In the void, those powerful beings were also in an uproar. They remained silent for a long time, with different thoughts in their minds and their eyes flashing. The fact that the Star Envoy is so optimistic about people with double pupils is a good thing for some people, as it means that the other person has great potential. I never thought that in this era, such a monstrous genius would appear. This is indeed the misfortune of other geniuses in the same era. Qi Yun, as Nangong Chen's apparent protector, was hiding in the depths at the moment. After seeing this scene, his eyes were also filled with pride. Only Fan Dao had a gloomy look in his eyes, and the murderous intent towards Nangong Chen in his heart had reached its peak. This kid absolutely cannot be allowed to stay here. We absolutely cannot let him continue like this. The posture of becoming an immortal. Is this a talent beyond the 9th rank? Li Sanhai said this with some disbelief, his voice trembling. Becoming an immortal? That's the legendary immortality. With just one thought, saints like him would die in a pile. Even among the 3,000 states in the upper realm, he is considered one of the most powerful figures. He is now more and more certain that the other party is most likely the reincarnation of a great figure from the upper realm. No, we must make sure those 2 guys from the 7 gods have something to do with each other. Li Sanhai thought to himself, a gleam of light flashing in his eyes. Bai Wu Dao, who was standing by, seemed to know what he was thinking and said slowly, how can a golden scale be kept in a pond? That person with double pupils is destined not to stay in Xintian realm for long. Above the 9 heavens is his stage. If you're slow, it will be too late. His eyes flickered, and he was also curious about how far Nangong Chen could go in the end. There was excitement and enthusiasm within the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. They had not expected that such a powerful being would be so optimistic about their prince and princess. Becoming an immortal, since ancient times, they dared not even think about it. It is rumored that immortals are immortal and have endless lifespans. But as a saint at the pinnacle of martial arts in the Xintian realm, his lifespan is only 10,000 years. They can be said to have witnessed with their own eyes a future, true immortal. Moreover, in the Xintian territory, perhaps only the Divine Dynasty, where they are located, can have such a monster. At this moment, the people of the Divine Dynasty are extremely proud of their identities. The atmosphere inside the royal family was extremely lively. As soon as the Star Envoy finished speaking, congratulations rang out one after another. Nangong Chen, who was sitting on the dragon throne, had a beaming face and a hint of excitement in his eyes. Even he himself did not expect that his son could be so evil. Doesn't that mean that the other person will be able to follow in his wife's footsteps in the future? Rukin, she has been alone in the upper realm for a long time, on the battlefield of heaven and earth. As Xuanjia's voice rang out, more and more people echoed and accused Luanqin of what he had done in the immortal treasure. This man has the cultivation level of a quasi-saint. I don't know how old he is, yet he was able to sneak in by bypassing the rules and indiscriminately killing so many geniuses. His intentions are not pure. I hope the Star Envoy will investigate and clear our name. This is a demonic being sheltered by Xiantian territory. We suggest that Xiantian territory be disqualified from the second round. That's right, Xiantian territory's qualification will be revoked. We suspect they deliberately colluded with each other. Except for the demon clan, almost everyone supports Xianjia. There was no way. Their losses this time were too great. Almost half of them were killed by the quasi-saint. For some of their domains that were not at the top in terms of strength, it would not be an exaggeration to say that this period of time was a nightmare. After hearing this, Li Qixin and the others looked a little aggrieved. They didn't expect the other party to be so slanderous and even say that they were in cahoots with the evil followers of the Blood God cult. You guys are truly blind. Several people from our Xiantian territory were also killed by the evil followers of the Blood God cult. How could we possibly be in cahoots with them? Xiong was so angry that he said indignantly, "Who knows if you're just putting on an act in secret, pretending to be good for us? You humans have always been incredibly cunning. Who would dare to trust you?" Soon, someone immediately refuted it. "You." After Xiongda heard this, his expression changed. He didn't expect that the other party could throw dirty water on him so casually. Wan Xin, the protagonist of the incident, seemed calm, but was actually very panicked. Logically speaking, what that master gave him was enough to integrate into the rules of this place, making his aura no different from that of other geniuses. But there is no guarantee that he will not be driven out by the Star Messenger. Soon, Li Qixin also spoke, neither humble nor arrogant. "Sir, I don't know what tricks this person has. He secretly sneaked in among us and entered the immortal treasure with us. This is definitely not what we want. Moreover, he is a member of the Blood God cult and has a high status. I'm afraid he came in this time just to target us. I hope you can investigate this clearly." At this moment, everyone's eyes turned to the Star Messenger, wanting to see how the other party would respond. Xingchen wore a mask on his face, making it impossible to see any emotion. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a cold voice, "Are you really questioning me? If he didn't comply with the rules of Xinzong, he would have been wiped out on the spot. How could you dare point fingers at me? Since the rules don't exclude you, then there's no problem. You can continue to participate in the second round of assessment. What I said before is still valid." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces changed drastically. They didn't expect that in the end, this quasi-saint of the Blood God sect would be able to continue to participate in the second round. So, is there still a need to compete for first place this time? Among all the people present, who can defeat the other in a one-on-one fight? For a time, many people did not dare to say a word even though they were dissatisfied and could only curse in their hearts. Even Nangong Chen showed some surprise in his eyes after hearing it. He originally thought that the other party would be expelled from his place. So, does the other party have a treasure that can bypass the rules of this place? Nangong Chen suddenly realized that he had guessed it before, and it seemed to be just as he thought. However, whether the opponent can enter the second round or not still has no impact on him. If it really doesn't work, he will take out the Human Emperor Sword and strike the opponent twice. Wan Xin was overjoyed. He had never thought that he could escape right under the other party's nose. The treasure given by that adult is indeed extraordinary, and it can even deceive the perception of such a powerful person. He was shocked at the thought and became even more respectful to the leader of the Blood God cult. "This time, I want to see where you can run to." Wan Xin's eyes were cold as he swept towards all the geniuses around him with naked murderous intent, without a trace of reservation. He still has hope. If he enters the Temple of Inheritance as the first place, the probability of obtaining inheritance will increase a lot. Correspondingly, the probability of inheritance obtained in subsequent rankings will also decrease. This is also a secret that few people know about. If he hadn't heard it from that adult, he probably would never have known it in his life. Feeling that extremely cold, murderous intent, the geniuses present all felt a chill in their hearts, with a hint of fear on their faces. The oppressive feeling of the quasi-saint is not just talk. At this moment, the eyes of the leading evildoers, Xian Jia, Xian Xiangling, Hu Yaoyao, Fozi, Li Qixin, and others were all filled with deep fear. If you encounter this, there is no other way but to surrender. The gap is just too big. However, when Wan Xin's gaze fell on Nangong Chen, the murderous intent in him could not be stopped from erupting. "We have lost one of the 4 great masters in the sect. He will definitely be punished when he gets out. This kid deserves to die." What made him most angry was that hundreds of thousands of his points were gone just like that. "Boy, you'd better pray that you don't run into me, or I'll let you know what a nightmare is. I don't believe you can still use that terrifying formation." Wan Xin said coldly that for him, as long as the opponent entered the battle, he would have a way to make him shut up and not say the word surrender. He could sense that the other party's cultivation was only at the peak of the powerful. In his eyes, he was as small as a bug. Chapter 272, just a formation master. You've truly forgotten the pain after the wound healed. It seems the death of your companion hasn't awakened you. After the words fell, a cold voice sounded. When everyone heard the voice, they looked and saw Nangong Chen with a calm expression, speaking slowly. Nangong Chen's eyes contained no emotion. He was dressed in white with runes interwoven around him, looking like a god. It seemed that in his eyes, the other party was just a clown. This calm and still posture attracted many people's attention. After hearing this, Wanqin was stunned for a moment, and then burst into laughter. "Haha, I was tricked by your shameless formation. Do you really think that with your strength, you can kill a quasi-saint? What's more, you killed Liang Gui, and I have to thank you for it. I have one less competitor. Without him, who among you could be my rival for the top spot?" After he stopped talking, a cruel look appeared on Wanqin's lips. He looked at them with such a piercing look, as if he was looking at a lamb. What he said was true. Although he would be criticized by his superiors after he got out, it didn't matter. The resources of Liang Gui's lineage, Liang Gui was dead here now, and when he got out, those would all be his. Thinking of this, the evil light in his eyes became brighter. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed slightly. They hadn't expected that the people in the blood god cult were so ruthless and cold-hearted that they didn't even care about people of the same bloodline. If they really faced such a ruthless person, they would probably have no chance of winning. If you meet me now, kneel down and kowtow to me. Maybe I will be satisfied and leave you with an intact body. Wanqin continued, looking at Nangong Chen, his tone extremely condescending, his attitude as if he was giving alms. After these words were spoken, the reactions of everyone present changed slightly. Li Qixin and the others had cold eyes. They had not expected that Wanqin would be so humiliating. Xianjie, on the other hand, was watching with an amused look on his face. He wanted to see how this kid would react. Angry, furious, or aggrieved, or even kneeling down and begging for mercy. However, to his disappointment, Nangong Chen's expression had not changed at all from beginning to now, and he still maintained a calm attitude. "It seems that you're anxious to reunite with your companions down there. No problem. If you meet me, I will personally send you down." Nangong Chen sneered, his double pupils emitting a terrifying dim light, like an ancient young emperor. Such arrogance and composure were innate. When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Not only did he not surrender, he even threatened to kill the quasi-saint. After hearing this, Li Qixin and the others were also surprised, and then they suddenly understood. With the mentality of a person with double pupils, he would actually say such words. This made them feel relieved, and they couldn't stop laughing. But can he really kill the quasi-saint? He is only at the peak of the great power. Having witnessed so many miracles, it's not that they don't trust people with double pupils, but their opponent this time is not anyone, but a living quasi-saint. The gap between a god king and a quasi-saint is as vast as the difference between heaven and earth, not to mention the realm of great power. Thinking of this, Chu Yin and others looked worried and prayed that they would not meet the other party in the second round. Wanqin was stunned for a moment, looking into the boy's eyes. It seemed that there were countless evil spirits in them, stretching out countless creepy hands, attacking him, wrapping his whole body, and devouring his flesh. For a moment, he broke out in a cold sweat and his heart was pounding. After he came to his senses, there was a deep shock in his eyes. I was actually frightened like this by a powerful being. He looked at Nangong Chen deeply and said no more. This boy was too terrifying and must be strangled in the cradle. At this moment, the reactions from other domains were also varied. What did he say? He actually said he would kill the quasi-saint. That's hilarious. He must be dreaming. He really thinks this is the first round, and that he, a formation master, will have a month to prepare. I want to see how he's going to kill that quasi-saint. Someone among the gods looked disdainful and whispered. They said loudly that after all, they still remembered the opponent's performance in the first round and were unwilling to provoke this god of death. Xianjie, who was standing aside, also smiled at this moment. He seemed to have heard the funniest joke. A mere powerful person actually said he wanted to kill a quasi-saint. His words are still as arrogant as ever. He'd better pray that he doesn't run into me. Otherwise, I will eliminate him early and avenge my previous grudge. Xianjie spoke loudly, his brows full of confidence. Not far away, Xian Xiangling, who was extraordinary and perfect in appearance, also shook her head and was very pessimistic about it. Although the opponent's performance in the first round was amazing enough, it was obviously impossible for a peak-level powerful being to kill a quasi-saint based on her experience. It seems that the opponent is likely to be eliminated in the second round. On the other side of the Buddhist realm, the Buddhist disciple was alone. After hearing what Nangong Chen said, he was also in disbelief. His eyes flashed, and he secretly thought about its feasibility. After all, the actions displayed by the god of death in the first round were so bizarre that he had to put aside common sense and look at them. After a long while, the Buddhist disciple shook his head and muttered, "I must be crazy to hesitate for so long. How could a powerful being like me possibly kill a quasi-saint?" Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and looked at Nangong Chen with murderous intent in his eyes. If he meets him in the second round, he will definitely kill him. He doesn't believe that a mere formation master can really turn the world upside down. On the other side of the demon realm, Hu Yaoyao was shocked when she heard this, but after thinking about it, she shook her head. It's not that she didn't believe the other party, but they all witnessed the power of a quasi-saint. How could he be killed by such a powerful person? If it was the God King, she might still believe it. In her opinion, this should just be the other party's polite statement. After all, the adult would not lose face in front of so many people. Behind him, Bai Long and the group of monsters sneered secretly. He didn't even know if the other party could defeat him, but they wanted to kill the quasi-saint? The human race is truly arrogant and conceited. There has been no change since ancient times. Thinking of this, disdain flashed in Bai Long's eyes. He now knew that the lives of their demon domain were exchanged for these rewards, not because the other party took the initiative and it had nothing to do with the other party. In that case, don't blame him for being merciless in the second round. After all, this human has a bad relationship with someone, but he is so close to the princess. He is really asking for death. The Star Envoy watched this scene secretly without saying a word. For him, he was only responsible for arranging the trial properly. As for what happened to these people, he had no control over it. However, he was also a little curious in his heart about what other means the young man who was valued by the adults had to be able to kill a quasi-saint by jumping 2 levels. Although he was curious, he did not forget his main business after this little episode was over. The rules for the second round of trials are a ring match. The winner advances to the next round, and a loser is eliminated. You can surrender mid-battle, and a protection mechanism will be triggered. However, you must first state your intention to surrender. Your opponents will be randomly selected by the Star Arena. There's a chance of a bye, but don't pin your hopes on them. Fight each battle honestly and well. That's what you need to do. Oh, by the way, let me tell you a secret. Don't think you're content with just making into the top 10. The higher your ranking in the second round, not only will you be more likely to be noticed by the Heritage Temple, but it will also affect your final result. That is, whether or not you can leave your name on the Myriad World's ranking. Get some rest. 3 days from now, your opponents will be announced above the Starry Sky Arena. After he finished speaking, the Star Messenger disappeared without leaving any trace, as if he had never been there. The eyes of the geniuses flickered. This piece of news contained too much information, and they needed a lot of time to digest it. Soon, the battlefield of heaven and earth fell into silence. So, if we're defeated, we can surrender immediately? Oh, Overlord, how quickly does his protection trigger? If he has to wait a while after shouting, wouldn't he be doomed? As a person who values his life the most, Lu Dazui's first consideration is his safety. Upon hearing this, the others also looked at Li Qixin. After all, this was a very important matter. Hurry, just admit defeat and the match will end immediately and you will be teleported out. Li Qixin thought for a while and then responded. After hearing this, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. That was good. If he wasn't quick, he would really die on the ring. As a person who has experienced this, Li Qixin couldn't help but remind. So if you're defeated, you must surrender immediately, especially if you encounter those invincible ones or the blood god cult quasi-saint. Surrender immediately. They will not be able to do anything to you. After all, if you surrender too late, you'll actually die there. This Starry Sky Arena allows death. After hearing this, everyone nodded very seriously. This kind of thing cannot be taken lightly. Since there are buys, wouldn't it be great if it was my turn? Who knows? Maybe I could even make it into the top 10. Xiong suddenly thought of something and said with his eyes shining. When everyone heard this, they rolled their eyes. The probability of getting a buy is extremely low, let alone getting a buy every time. Li Qixin's mouth twitched, and after thinking for a moment, he continued. There are indeed buys. Last year, there was another person who had 3 consecutive buys and made it into the top 10. That's considered incredible luck. After hearing this, Wang Tung and others were somewhat stunned. Is it true that someone could make it into the top 10 like this? No way, bro. Even Nangong Chen, who was not far away, was a little surprised when he heard it, and then shook his head. Good luck, but you have to pay with your lifespan. As a fan of a certain game in my previous life, I know this truth very well. If I'm not strong enough to make it into the top 10, I'm afraid there won't be any inheritance left by the predecessors in the Heritage Temple that I'd be interested in, right? At this time, Ximeng seemed to have thought of something and spoke out. The others nodded when they heard this. They didn't believe that this person could be favored by those heroic spirits. He was just a lucky person. No, he was appreciated for his luck by a true immortal senior and received a legacy. Li Qixin seemed to have thought of something and said helplessly, everyone was stunned. How could this happen? Li Qixin spread his hands. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have dared to believe it. After all, this kind of thing is really too unbelievable. On the other side, Su Li, who was eavesdropping, also widened her eyes in disbelief. Can a person's luck really be this good? She muttered softly. Nangong Chen also sighed. That person's luck was indeed extraordinary. He didn't know how he would live in the future. But it is said that later, in the upper realm, he accidentally died in the aftermath of a battle between two powerful beings. Li Qixin continued, saying that he felt a little regretful when he heard the news later. After all, the other party was also a member of Xintian domain. After hearing this, everyone fell silent again. Well, they're no longer envious. As expected, if you get something that does not belong to you, you will eventually have to pay a price. On the other side, Nangong Chen's mouth twitched when he heard this. How could it be just as he thought? His lifespan was completely gone. Even Su Li was speechless. She had not expected that the other party could enter the upper realm and die in the aftermath of the battle between strong men. What kind of death is this? This is the first time I've seen it. Soon after everyone finished chatting, they began to meditate and prepared wholeheartedly for the ring match in 3 days. At this moment, people outside saw this scene and sighed. I never thought that this year's leader would actually decide to advance all the geniuses present to the second round. Yes, so this is unprecedented. Excluding the infiltrated Luan Xin, a full 14 geniuses have entered the second round, enough to make their names known through the ages. This is all thanks to the person with the double pupil. But speaking of which, only the top 10 can enter the Inheritance Temple. I wonder how many people in our Xintian territory can enter the top 10 this time, and how many can obtain that inheritance. It's hard to say for sure. Even a powerful person with double pupils is only at the peak of great power. If they encounter those seeded players early, it will be bad. This session is already the most glorious one for our Xintian territory. We won't force them to do well in the second round. We hope they return safely. This is not only what they think in their hearts, but also what most people think. After all, this immortal treasure trove has brought them enough surprises. First, the one with double pupils won the first place, and then they entered the Dao formation. Then, among the top 50, they occupied 12 places. The current situation in Xinzong is such that the quasi-saint of the Blood God sect is at its peak in front, while several evildoers from various domains who have already become God Kings are eyeing them covetously from behind. These geniuses are still young, so wait a few years or even a dozen years before competing again. As for the first place in the second round, or even the top 10, that's something to think about. We can't really let the person with double pupils kill the quasi-saint at the level of great power. Although they were somewhat moved by the high-spirited words of the man with double pupils, reality is still reality after all. Not to mention now, not only the quasi-saint, but also the other people in the first round who are affected by the double pupils in various domains. All want to kill him. Chapter 273. 3 days later, the ring begins, and the opponent is Bai Long. 3 days later, Nangong Chen was surrounded by divine light. His eyes were tightly closed, and a wisp of immortal air came out of his mouth, which was extraordinary and magical, as if a real immortal was practicing here. This kind of fairy-like vision also attracted the attention of many people. Shock flashed in their eyes, and they looked over here with complicated expressions. Is this really just training? After seeing this, Xianhong was speechless and found it hard to imagine. Beside him, Xianjie was also practicing, his whole body shining with golden light, a faint glow flowing on his forehead, and runes intertwined. Although it was extraordinary, it was far less terrifying than Nangong Chen's. Xianjie retracted the last wisp of black gold energy, opened his eyes, and a gleam of light burst out, and the aura on his body became much stronger. Not only him, but all the geniuses present at this moment have made very good gains after 3 days of high-intensity training in the past month and practicing in meditation. Son of God, have you become stronger again? When Xianhong saw him stand up, he hurried forward and said respectfully. The other two also saluted respectfully one by one. After feeling each other's breath, they couldn't help but feel a little shocked. This terrifying aura is much stronger than before. Xianjie was speechless, just nodded slightly, then looked at the young man from Xintian realm. His expression changed slightly. Oh, the other party, is he practicing? What kind of magical power could produce such a strange phenomenon? Thinking of this, Xuanjin narrowed his eyes slightly, and a greedy feeling arose in his heart. His reward this time was just a mere immortal grade skill, but the other party's skill looked much better than his own. Could this be an imperial grade skill? It would be a waste if it fell into this kid's hands. If I could snatch it away later, my strength would be greatly improved. Of course, if Xianjie knew that the martial arts practiced by Nangong Chen was the legendary great immortal scripture, he would probably be shocked and speechless. Soon, a figure appeared on the starry sky arena, and the aura it exuded shocked all the geniuses present. They opened their eyes instantly and turned around to look, only to see that the figure of the star messenger had already appeared there. The appearance of the star envoy means that the second round of competition is about to begin. Nangong Chen also opened his eyes, and a ray of divine light was withdrawn from his eyes. He sensed the changes in his body, his expression indifferent, and then shook his head and looked towards the starry sky arena. Is it just a minor accomplishment in the Great Zhou Immortal Sutra? The minor success of the Great Zhou Immortal Scripture is to fill the 30 acupoints in the body with immortal energy in order to open the immortal acupoints. The ultimate achievement is to open 1,000 acupoints, connect with the spirit, and strengthen his body to his semi-immortal state. Currently, he has only opened 68 acupoints. Every time a fairy orifice is opened, it can increase the sensitivity between oneself and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and can absorb spiritual energy better and faster for cultivation. At the same time, the speed of cultivation can be several times faster. When a certain number of them are opened, one will strengthen oneself. When one reaches great success, perfection, or perfection, one's body will undergo a transformation. The closer one gets to a flawless body, the closer one becomes to becoming an immortal. Generally, those who become immortals only open a few dozen immortal orifices, but those who practice the Great Zhou Immortal Scripture can open several times more immortal orifices. If two people are at the same realm, they can crush immortals at the same realm. Now, most of the immortal orifices he has opened are concentrated on his arms. After all, strength is of vital importance and should be strengthened first. With the strength of his arms now, if he were to face the former Wan Tiansheng, he probably wouldn't need to use any other skills. He could smash him to pieces with just the strength of his physical body. Moreover, his own defense can even withstand a full-strength attack from a peak God King without any effort. As for where his limit is, even he himself doesn't know. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but feel his eyes getting hot, and he couldn't wait to find an opponent to test his own strength. At this moment, the star envoy on the ring seemed to have discovered something. He looked at the young man in white with his eyes flashing and a little shocked. Has he gotten stronger again? What a freak. However, the star envoy only glanced at it, then quickly withdrew his gaze, coughed lightly, and said, 3 days have passed. Now I declare the second round of trials. The battlefield of heaven and earth officially begins. Although the voice was soft, it echoed throughout the entire space and lingered for a long time. At this moment, the more than 40 geniuses present all had burning expressions on their faces and were extremely excited. They were rubbing their hands and couldn't wait to have a competition. For some people who are unwilling to give up, the second round of competition is their chance to show off their skills. On the side of the God Clan, Xian Jie saw this scene with a calm expression and an extremely arrogant look in his eyes, as if he was invincible. It seemed that in his eyes, no one present could be his opponent. The only ones worthy of his attention were those few people. Thinking of this, he looked at Xian Nu, Hu Yao Yao from the Demon Realm, Fozi from the Buddha Realm, and when he saw Xian Tianyu and others, he shook his head, and a hint of disdain appeared in his eyes. The two strongest among them are only in the middle stage of God King. He is already invincible at the same level, and now he is cultivated to the extreme realm of God King, the peak of God King. When dealing with them, he can crush them with just one hand. You better hope you don't run into me. Xian Jie sneered to himself, his eyes icy as he glanced at them. Not far away, in Xintian territory, Li Qixin felt this gaze and frowned. He looked in the direction he was looking and found that the owner of this gaze was Xian Jie of the God Clan. But when he looked over, the other party had already stopped looking at them and turned away. Li Qixin couldn't help but look solemn upon seeing this, his eyes showing a deep fear. He said, if we encounter someone from the God Clan, we should surrender immediately if we are defeated. I'm afraid they will do something bad to us. When the others heard this, their expressions changed, and then they nodded slightly. They knew that except for the demon realm, the geniuses from other realms looked at them with hostility, especially since they had mixed feelings. It is even possible that there are people in the demon realm who have bad intentions towards them, so the next battle will be a tough one. Similarly, on the demon clan side, Hu Yao Yao had a charming face, her almond-shaped eyes were slightly narrowed, and there was always a smile on the corner of her mouth, making it impossible to tell her inner emotions. Princess, whether anyone from our demon realm can make it into the top 3 this time depends on you. Bai Long said respectfully, with a hint of flattery in his words. Doesn't this imply that, apart from Xuanjie and that quasi-saint, no one here can stop him from taking the 3rd place? After hearing this, the others also started to speak up, fearing this opportunity to flatter. After hearing this, Huiyao didn't react at all. She just waved her hand to tell them to shut up so that they wouldn't have to keep talking in her ears. Didn't she know her own strength? If she hadn't activated the three tails, she would probably have been able to fight against the Buddha's disciples in the Buddha realm and Xian Xiangling in the God clan. As for Xianjia, she is not yet able to fight him in her current state. As for other domains, she only paid more attention to the human race in the Xintian domain. In the distance, a lone Buddhist lowered his head and said, Ba, and then his eyes became more and more fiery. Finally, it's my turn, time for revenge. At this moment, his left eye was twitching with a terrifying murderous intent, but his right eye was blooming with the ultimate Buddha light, which was both good and evil, as if the Buddha and the devil were imprisoned in his body. If he were seen by the world in this state, some people would probably be shocked. I don't know what kind of opponents I'll encounter. I think those mermaids on the other side are easy to bully. Assign me to the sea area. Lu Dazhu twirled the magic weapon in his hand and prayed to God, occasionally glancing at the people in the opposite sea. The sea area, as the name suggests, is an area that lives on the sea. There are many sea creatures in it, such as mermaids, etc. Its strength is in the middle position among the 10 areas. In the sea area opposite to Xintian territory, the only 3 mermaids left at this moment clenched their fists when they saw Lu Dazhu's eyes. They knew what this look meant. How despicable, Prince! I will kill this human being and dig out his eyeballs to make them into night pearls. A short mermaid said to the young man in blue beside him. Of course, that thief from Xintian territory actually killed so many of my compatriots. It's truly unforgivable. If you encounter humans, kill them with all your might. Hai Wuhin spoke. His face was bewitching, his eyes were like sapphires, shining with demonic light, and at the same time his aura was extremely powerful. He had already reached the astonishing late stage of the God King. At this moment, his expression was cold and the murderous intent in his eyes was naked, without any concealment. Seeing the other party's extremely cold eyes, Lu Dazhu also shrank back, tremblingly moved to the side of Li Qixin, and cursed in a low voice, "Damn, that salted fish actually wanted to kill this young master. He's very strong, don't underestimate him. His name is Hai Wuhin, and he's a top-tier talent among this generation of the Sea Clan. His talent is far superior to other Sea Clan prodigies, and he's even reached the late stage of the Divine King." Li Qixin explained slowly, a hint of fear flashing in his eyes. Late stage of God King? After hearing this, everyone was stunned. They were only at the Great Power Realm, but the other party was already at the late God King realm. Even Overlord and Moon God are only in the middle stage of God King. Then why is he only ranked 15th? Even lower than Saint Chu. Xiongda was a little puzzled and expressed his doubts. It's different. The first round of trials is mainly to test the combat capabilities of the teams. Apart from him, there are no other outstanding geniuses in their sea area, so the ranking is naturally low. Li Qixin shook his head and continued. After hearing this, everyone suddenly realized what was going on, and then they looked at Hai Wuhin with fear in their eyes. While they were talking, in a corner not far away, Jiang Yingyue stood on the Milky Way. Her eyes were closed, and flowing light bloomed on her body. The bright moon behind her reflected her cold and beautiful face, making her look desolate and like an immortal. After a long moment, she opened her eyes, a hint of helplessness in them, and murmured, "My lord is calling me. It seems I have to return to the upper realm as soon as possible. However, the upper realm is in turmoil now, and it is not easy to go back. Moreover, she has an extraordinary status. If she wants to go back, she must hide her own strength and identity." Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look at the geniuses from various domains in front of her. To her, fighting with them was just like playing house, and she didn't have any interest in it all. Moreover, even the weakest of the geniuses she had seen in the 3,000 Dao states were enough to crush these elites from the 10 realms. However, the one who interested her the most was Nangong Chen, whose double pupils were coveted by many people in the 3,000 Dao states. I don't know what will happen to him if he sets foot there in the future. Jiang Yingyue showed a playful look on her face. Before she regained consciousness, the other party's indifferent attitude made her very unhappy. However, it is worth mentioning that she will be able to witness the other party's fate in the future. Just like in the first round of trials, she witnessed a big drama with her own eyes. Forget it, then I'll play along with you guys. Jiang Yingyue muttered to herself, and as a ray of moonlight bloomed, she soon returned to her usual indifferent appearance. Not long after, star tokens were distributed to everyone. They only needed to turn over to see who their opponent was. When all the geniuses present saw it, they couldn't wait to turn over the back. Fuck, I hit Xuanjie. Who is Luanxin? Hiss. What did you say? He is the quasi-saint. Oh no, I didn't expect to meet a Buddhist from the Buddha realm. What a good draw. It's really a good draw. I was actually assigned to the human race's prodigy. For a moment, exclamations were heard one after another. Some were lamenting, some were surprised and excited, and each genius had different emotions. Nangong Chen looked at the name on the back of his token, then looked not far away and saw a young man in a white suit, who was also looking at him with a smile. Demon Realm, by long. The young man was in the center of the demon domain. He had crystal dragon horns on his head, a terrifying aura, and his pupils were upright, bringing a strong sense of oppression. If this person was not by long, who else could he be? Nangong Chen's expression remained unchanged. He glanced at him and didn't care. He doesn't care who the other person is. If someone is so blind as to provoke him, he will beat him up, even if the other person is the demon with whom he has made a deal. Of course, if the other party is sensible and surrenders early, then he will have no way to deal with it. On the other side, seeing that the other party ignored him, Bai Long retracted his smile, his eyes became cold, and a murderous intent emerged in his heart. He didn't expect it to meet the opponent in the first round. This really made him excited. It was just the right time to settle both new and old grudges at the same time. A mere formation master. You're dreaming of eating swan meat? I'll crush your dream. Hu Yao Yao, who was not far away, frowned when she saw the name in her hand. She had never expected to run into someone from Tianyuan territory in the first round. Chapter 274. Luck, Soul Orb, and Return of Favor. At the same time, people outside were also watching this scene, their eyes full of excitement and passion. The Tianjiao Arena tournament is finally about to begin. The upcoming battle, regardless of victory or defeat, will be extremely spectacular. We are in for a feast for the eyes. The elites from all 10 regions will once again determine who is superior. Yes, let's see what the gap is between these so-called geniuses and us. It really makes my blood boil. This is the first time I've seen these monsters fighting. This time we have 14 geniuses who have made it to the second round. Even if we have bad luck, we won't be eliminated early. I think we should have a place in the top 10 this time. Soon, the supporters of Tianjiao began to cheer for him. Among them, people with double pupils have the highest voice and are the most supported. In the void, those powerful beings saw this scene and sighed, sighing one after another. If I had good luck with the draw and hadn't encountered those weirdos so early on, I'd still have some hope of making the top 10. But right now, we should be focusing on this round of draws. I wonder how their luck will be. Indeed, if you can't even make it into the top 20, how can you expect to make it into the top 10? I don't know what kind of ranking that person with double pupils will get in the end. Soon, these strong men turned the topic to Nangong Chen again. After all, his performance in this session was too dazzling, and it was hard not to pay attention. They looked at one spot in the projection and nodded with approval. In the picture, it was Nangong Chen who was checking the status of his opponent. He looked calm and neither arrogant nor impatient. Looking at him, it seems like he drew a good lot. Good news, then there will be no problem in the first round. An old man in Shilin Gate praised. However, the second round is very restrictive for him as a formation master. He cannot use the formation to defend against the enemy. An elder of the Liu family said regretfully. Based on the strength he's shown previously, getting into the top 10 is no problem. As for the top 5, that's going to be difficult. That's right, the giant leader is nowhere near as terrifying as the geniuses from the top few regions. Not to mention, I've noticed that some of them have the faint sign of becoming quasi-saints. In other words, some of them have reached the peak of Divine King. This peak Divine Kings are truly terrifying. How old are they? They're probably under 100. After hearing the words of an old man from Tianji Pavilion, the strong men present were also shocked. Now they finally understood why the monster was called a monster. It could not be viewed with common sense. The realm they have reached after thousands of years of hard practice is not as fast as others who have practiced for decades. Don't underestimate this generation's geniuses. Not to mention them, even our Overlord and Moon God have already broken through to the Divine King realm, haven't they? It's a pity that they are only in the middle stage of the Divine King now, and there's still a huge gap between them and those geniuses. Is that so? That's really a pity. If I could give you Tianjiao a few more decades of cultivation, I might be able to catch up with them. It seems that with this huge gap, it's hopeless for those with double pupils to be in the top 5. Someone said regretfully and shook his head. The battlefield of heaven and earth. As the tokens were turned over one after another, the geniuses present all knew clearly who their opponents were today. For a moment, some were happy and some were sad. On the other side of Xintian territory, Li Qixin heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that he had drawn a genius from the demon clan. Fighting against this kind of unknown genius is definitely easier than fighting against those monsters. He looked at the others and said, "How's your luck?" "Not bad." Chu Yin responded that she also drew the demon tribe. "Good." Li Muxiu and Chao Li also nodded, their expressions relaxed, Obviously, they had drawn a good lot. Seeing this, Li Qixin nodded slightly and looked at the remaining people. Except for Chu Yin and others, the rest of the people were complaining bitterly. Fuck, I'm dying. I actually drew that Hai Wuhan. I feel like that star envoy is messing with me. After seeing his opponent, Lu Daju's expression changed, and he said bitterly. He looked towards the sea at this time and happened to see Hai Wuhan, who was looking at him with an evil smile on his face, as if saying, "You kid, just wait for me." After hearing this, Li Qixin's mouth twitched. He didn't expect that this fat man's luck was so bad. He patted Lu Daju on the shoulder and comforted him. "It's okay if it really doesn't work. Just go up and surrender." Lu Daju's face turned pale, and he quickly looked at Xiongda beside him. He happened to see the face on his token. For a moment, he tried hard to hold back his tears and laughed out loud. "Ha, how come someone is even more unlucky than me? You can even encounter Wanxin." That's right, the person Xiongda drew lots for was none other than the quasi-saint of the Blood God sect, Wanxin. Seeing this, Wanxin in the corner far away also glanced over and snorted coldly with a meaningful look. When the others heard this, they were also shocked. They didn't expect Xiongda to draw a royal bomb right at the start. This is terrible. The quasi-sage might have other methods to influence your mind and soul, making it impossible for you to surrender. This is not something to be trifled with. Li Qixin frowned and said in a deep voice. Xiongda's face already showed despair, and after hearing this, his face turned even paler. Wang Teng and others were also stunned, and then looked at each other with great concern. As a comrade in arms, he naturally didn't want the other party to die tragically here. What should I do then? Lu Daju also gradually became serious, his eyes full of worry. If there is a magical weapon that can protect the soul, and the quality must be at least heavenly, then we can be safe and sound. At this moment, the knowledgeable Xi Meng spoke in a light and pleasant voice. After that, everyone fell silent. Magical weapons that can protect the soul are already extremely rare, let alone those of high quality. It's not that they're unwilling to give, but they really don't have it. Even Lu Daju, who was a wealthy man, frowned at this moment because it was obvious that he didn't have this thing. Damn it, I should have brought a few more magic weapons before coming here. Lu Daju said with regret on his face. After hearing this, everyone was even more disheartened and their faces were gloomy. Even Lu Daju didn't have this kind of magic weapon, so who else could have it? After a long silence, a cold voice sounded from not far away. This is a soul bead. It can keep you safe. Remember to return it after you use it. Nangong Chen spoke and threw a pitch-black spherical object over. It emitted a faint glow and contained extremely strong soul power. This item is a saint weapon in his arsenal, which specializes in the soul and can also protect himself. When these words came out, everyone was shocked. They had never thought that the person with double pupils would actually come to the rescue. Moreover, the level of this magic weapon was obviously extraordinary. Xiongda was also stunned. He took it in his hands blankly, somewhat unable to believe it. His expression was complicated, and just as he was about to thank him, Nangong Chen's voice rang out again. "No need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank your father. He asked me to protect you once. I didn't have time to do so before in the cave, but now we are even." Nangong Chen said, slowly with a calm expression. What he said was indeed true. Elder Xiong from Howren Pavilion had traveled thousands of miles to Tianyuan Mansion to express his gratitude and gave him a lot of fairy crystals. No matter how small a mosquito is, it is still meat. He always repays favors. Since the other party's surname is also Xiong, he must be the other party's descendant. In this case, there is no harm in helping him. Chapter 275, Leadership Style, King Blood Dragon. At this moment, in the outside world, after understanding the whole story, everyone cast approving glances at the person with double pupils. It seems that the person with double pupils is not as cold and heartless as others say. He seems to be a kind and loyal person. Yes, this person is the leader of the Xiantian territory's geniuses. He leads the younger generation. We are truly fortunate to have him. A saint's weapon, borrowed just like that? Even a saint wouldn't be so magnanimous. The courage of a person with double pupils is truly extraordinary compared to ordinary people. This seemingly ordinary action made many geniuses who had previously been indifferent to people with double pupils want to follow their ideas. As for those who have double pupils, their supporters admire him even more. In Howren Pavilion, Elder Xiong was also very grateful and excited when he saw this scene. This person with double pupils is truly chivalrous and has the demeanor of a leader. A saint's weapon can be borrowed at will. Which saint in history can do this? Even if they were faced with such a thing, they would probably think twice and not be so decisive. After hearing this, several senior executives nearby nodded, with appreciation in their eyes. They have always had a favorable impression of this kind of proud and loyal person, especially the evildoer with double pupils, and have never had any hostility towards them. The Great Era is approaching, and it is time for them, Howren Pavilion, to make a choice. Tianyuan's Divine Dynasty, in the Imperial Palace. After seeing the prince casually lend out a saint's weapon, the ministers present widened their eyes and were speechless. There was also some horror in Nangong Zhan's eyes. After a long time, he whispered in his heart, "This kid, doesn't he know how precious the saint weapons are? He actually asked to lend them to me. If I lose them, wouldn't it be a huge loss?" Of course, he also knew that this weapon was most likely the opportunity that Nangong Chen had obtained in the first round. After all, he had never given it to him, so he still had an impression of it. But thinking this way, Nangong Zhan, as the ruler of a dynasty, naturally had to pretend to be broad-minded and said loudly, "Indeed, this kind of bearing is similar to what I used to be like. As people of the Divine Dynasty, we must also take the Crown Prince as an example to learn from, so that our Divine Dynasty can be respected by everyone. We obey your orders." Everyone said respectfully in unison, their eyes burning. This is actually a saint's weapon. Seeing that the other party had walked away, Xiongda felt the majestic aura of this soul bead, and his eyes widened in shock. Xiongda felt more and more admiration and gratitude towards Nangong Chen. He carefully put away the soul bead and placed it in his robe. Then, he bowed respectfully to Nangong Chen's figure. Although he didn't know what price his father paid, it was definitely not as valuable as the saint soldier lent by the other party. "You're lucky. Thank them when you get back." Li Qixin looked at Xiongda deeply and spoke. "I know." Xiongda nodded seriously. Nangong Chen's actions actually changed some people's minds, as they thought that the other party seemed so ruthless and cold. But even so, they would never dare to treat the other party as a good person. He is an existence that can create such a shocking killing array, trap and kill the geniuses of the 9 realms, and kill people without blinking an eye. He is definitely the most ruthless of the ruthless. When Su Li saw Nangong Chen coming back, there was a hint of surprise on her beautiful face, but it quickly disappeared and turned into calmness. She was a little confused. How could she not know that the other party had come to Tianyuan Mansion? "You were not in the Immortal Dynasty during that time and left early, so you don't know about this." Seeing this, Nangong Chen began to explain. Su Li's face showed realization. It seemed to be true. At that time, she left early to look for opportunities. Soon, the two turned the topic to their opponents. "Xianjin Fei? I haven't heard of him. He should be one of the few people from the God clan who escaped by chance." Looking at the words on the token in the girl's hand, Nangong Chen pondered for a moment and spoke. "But it should be easy for you." Su Li nodded. It was true. She didn't know how strong she was now. She had both the true phoenix technique and the immortal sword cutting snow. The phoenix blood she had refined in the past 3 days seemed to have transformed her physique a lot. Defeating a mediocre genius should not be a problem, even if the other party's realm is higher than hers. "Are you going to become a divine king?" Nangong Chen's pupils were dim, and he could see that beneath the girl's fair skin, there was an image of a divine phoenix of ice and snow, which was slowly being outlined. Obviously, she had found her way forward. "Well, I've had some insights and breakthroughs recently. How about you? Have you found the object to focus on?" Su Li did not hide anything and told him everything, and then some of her beautiful eyes showed curiosity. After hearing this, Nangong Chen secretly complained that it was a monster. Unexpectedly, Su Li was even quicker than him. Fortunately, she was his wife, otherwise he would have said that this girl must not be kept. She is truly the girl of destiny. That's all I can say. I haven't started sketching it out yet, but I have a rough idea. Nangong Chen shook his head and spoke. "Among the gods, the condensed Dharma image is of vital importance and is related to your future strength." He didn't want to rely on other things for his strength. He believed that man could conquer nature. Therefore, the object he wants to outline is not someone else, but himself. If he succeeds, he will become the #1 person in the world. I don't know who Brother Nangong has picked as his opponent. I hope it's not one of those guys. But judging from his appearance, he doesn't seem to be reacting much, so I guess his opponent shouldn't be strong. Seeing that Nangong Chen had already walked away, Li Qixin muttered to himself, with a gleam of light flashing in his eyes. "Apart from Xuanjie and those monsters, are there any stronger ones?" At this moment, Chu Yan's beautiful eyes flashed, and she asked curiously. After hearing this, Li Qixin thought about it and explained slowly. "If those monsters are considered the first echelon, then Moon Goddess, Brother Nangong, and I should only be considered the second echelon of geniuses. Of course, apart from us, there are also geniuses in the second echelon in other domains. For example, Xian Hong of the God Clan is said to be one of the first to awaken his bloodline. He possesses an incredible physique, known as the 9-Spirit King body. 9 divine powers are sealed within him, making him extremely terrifying. His strength has even reached the late stage of the God King. If I were to encounter this, I don't know if I could defeat him. He looked towards the god clan, where one of the men with ordinary face and eagle eyes said. After hearing this, everyone showed deep fear on their faces. Then, Li Qixin turned his head and looked towards the demon realm. There was a man in white tights, with dragon horns on his head and golden eyes, like dragon eyes, which brought a strong sense of oppression. Among them, the strongest in the second echelon should be him, the descendant of a true dragon and a Jiaolong, the king blood dragon Jiao, Bailong. This ancient beast is close to being a pure-blooded descendant of the 10 evils. Its strength can be imagined. If it weren't for its age, it would be more immature compared to other monsters. If it had grown up, I'm afraid even Xian Jie wouldn't be able to resist it. Li Qixin said slowly, his tone filled with deep fear. When everyone heard the name, they felt it sounded more and more familiar. Suddenly, Xiongda seemed to remember something and spoke out. I know him, he's Bailong, ranked 7th. At this moment, a voice sounded from the Star Arena. Now, I declare that the ring competition officially begins. The first battle will be between Nangong Chen from Xintian territory and Bailong from Demon territory. Chapter 276 Fox, Yao Yao's Complexity, the Silver Dragon Roars. Competitors, reach the Starry Sky Arena within 1 stick of incense. Otherwise, you will be deemed to have forfeited the competition. The Star Envoy stood on the stage and spoke slowly, not forgetting to give a reminder. As soon as these words were spoken, all the geniuses present had different expressions, which was quite interesting. On the side of the gods, Xian Jie had a sneer on his face, and his indifferent eyes contained a teasing tone as he looked at Nangong Chen. Bailong naturally recognized a monster from the demon realm, Wang Shuilong Jiao, who was quite powerful. If he grew up, even he would be wary of him. But unfortunately, Bailong was too young and didn't even have the qualifications to look him in the face at the moment. But even so, it shouldn't be a problem for the other party to beat this ignorant kid. Thinking of this, Xuanjia's eyes became even colder, and there was a hint of relief at the corner of his mouth. The feeling of seeing the opponent eliminated in the first round is as satisfying as killing the opponent with your own hands. Not far away, Yao Yu and others also had complicated expressions after hearing this. Unexpectedly, the second most talented person in their tribe actually met the human race who had saved their lives before in the first round. Hu Yao Yao also frowned, somewhat surprised that person had such bad luck that he actually met Bailong. Although Nangong Chen's formations were impressive, his cultivation was only at the peak of the great power realm. Bailong, however, had long since entered the Divine King realm and was now in the late Divine King realm. He was also a descendant of a dragon. Obviously, the opponent will lose this battle. What should I do? For a moment, she didn't know what to do and fell into distress. Do we need to let Bailong release some water? Obviously, Bailong would not agree, although he obeyed her orders on the surface. Only she knew that Bailong was from another branch of the royal family. They had always had a bad relationship and had been competing with each other for many years. The ranking of the two in the immortal treasure this time will also affect their future development to a certain extent. For both of them, it is of extraordinary significance and extremely important. But on the other hand, that adult had saved their clan, and at almost no cost. As for the ranking rewards they received, Hu Yao Yao knew it very well. If it weren't for the opponent's killing formation, they probably wouldn't have been able to get so far, and there wouldn't be so many people entering the top 50. All in all, I still owe it to that adult. At this moment, Bailong seemed to see what was in Hu Yao Yao's mind. He snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, "Although we were saved by that human earlier, we also paid a heavy price. Let's put things aside and let this matter be settled. Since they've chosen me as their opponent, I absolutely cannot hold back. I'll go all out to repay their life-saving grace. Princess, you should understand." The last few words were almost spoken by Bailong through gritted teeth. He was burning with jealousy. It was the first time he saw Hu Yao Yao so caring for a man and showing such an expression. That's fine, but the other party is a man of that despicable race. How could he bear this when he had loved her for so many years? This almost broke the last straw in his heart, making him determined that if he could kill this boy up there, he would leave no room for retreat to prevent future troubles. Thinking of this, murderous intent flashed in Bailong's eyes. He flicked his sleeves and turned away without waiting for the other party to answer. Hu Yao Yao had a complicated expression and wanted to say something, but when she saw that the other party had already left, she sighed. She looked at the ethereal man in white in the distance, secretly praying that he would give up early. At this moment, Li Qixin and others' pupils suddenly shrank after hearing the words of the Star Envoy. What you say really comes true. They had just finished saying not to run into Bailong, when the next moment they heard Nangong Chen had run into him. Xu Meng's expression also changed, with some worry in her beautiful eyes. Xu Yan's face was natural, as if she had thought of something, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Nangong Chen defeated her ancestor. So how could he be afraid of him? What should we do? Can he defeat Bai Long? Chowli swallowed secretly and said worriedly. Everyone was silent for a while. Obviously, even they did not have absolute confidence. The other party is a descendant of a dragon in the late God King stage, while Nangong Chen is only at the peak of the powerful realm. This lot is so unlucky. I think the Star Messenger must be plotting something bad and deliberately targeting us. Lu Dezhu said this with a somewhat indignant look on his face. That's right, he's wearing a mask. It's obvious that he's done a lot of bad things and doesn't dare to show his true face. Xiong also echoed, looking at the Star Envoy on the stage and gritting his teeth. When Li Qixin heard this, he felt a little helpless. Yes, their luck was too bad. With so many people, who could have been chosen instead of Bai Long? Just as they were silent, there was a loud bang, and Bai Long's figure was already standing on the starry sky arena. Bai Long's eyes flashed with brilliance, emitting a terrifying dragon aura, which made the geniuses present change their expression slightly. Silver dragon armor, transform. He scolded. The next moment, the robe on his body suddenly turned into a silver armor, shining coldly and looking extremely majestic. What is this? Xiong said in a low voice with shock in his eyes. The silver dragon armor is one of the dragon and Jiao clans' innate magical powers. It's said that this armor is indestructible, even stronger than ordinary dragon scales, and has extremely strong defensive power. Even a peak divine king with a full-strength attack is not sure if it can penetrate it. Li Qixin explained slowly, with some shock in his eyes. When the other geniuses saw this, they also showed fear in their eyes and spoke up one after another. He summoned the silver dragon armor right from the start. Looks like that human kid is going to be in trouble in this battle. With that kind of aura, if it were me, I wouldn't even be able to handle it for a single round. Some people sneered and said disdainfully, what about that human kid? He was so arrogant before, but now he's afraid, right? He hasn't come up for so long. It's ridiculous. Hearing the mocking voices of these people, Wang Teng and others were furious and wanted to defend them. Li Qixin was searching for Nangong Chen at this moment, wanting to remind him. If there was a chance, he even wanted to tell Nangong Chen not to force himself. Soon, a figure in white swept through the crowd and shuttled between the stars. Starlight intertwined with every step, and his robe rustled. Such a peerless posture made everyone stunned. If this person is not Nangong Chen, who else could it be? Li Qixin's pupils shrank when he saw this. Brother Nangong, be careful of him. He was about to remind the other party when he heard a calm voice. Don't worry, I will suppress it myself. Beneath the words lies unparalleled self-confidence and a calmness that looks down upon the world. Just a few words, but they seem to have magical power, instantly calming Li Qixin and others. At this moment, in the outside world, oh my god, I didn't expect to draw someone with double pupils in the first battle. This is so exciting. With the strength of a person with double pupils, the battle will surely be resolved quickly. The guy on the other side is unlucky. He didn't expect to choose someone with double pupils as his opponent. Let me mourn for him for a second. Seeing the person with double pupils being the first to go on stage, the onlookers were extremely excited for a moment, and their eyes were fixed on the projection in the air. Not only them, at this moment, almost everyone in the entire Xiantian realm was watching this scene. This is the first battle that concerns the dignity of the domain. If they win, it will greatly boost their morale. Of course, if they lose, it will also have a negative impact on other geniuses. Soon, someone started to wonder, who is Bai Long from the demon realm? It is said that he was the 7th place in the last round. An old man with a shrewd look on his face said that he remembered it very clearly. I see, 7th place? That shouldn't be a big deal for someone with double pupils. That's right, only 7th. I thought I was so powerful. After hearing this, some supporters of people with double pupils instantly felt relieved and full of confidence. For a person with double pupils, an unknown person can be crushed by one hand. In the void, some powerful people also looked strange after seeing this scene. Given the influence of those with double pupils today, if we lose, the consequences will be disastrous. An elder sighed. I hope I won't lose. By the way, have you found out Bai Long's identity? What kind of genius is he? The Qilin Gate's powerful person responded, and then looked at an old man from the Tianji Pavilion. After hearing this, the old man opened the map of all worlds in his hand and quickly found the information about Bai Long in the demon realm. For a moment, the old man's eyes widened, and he took a breath. Oh no, this is not good. Soon, 2 tall figures stood on the starry sky arena. Bai Long was wearing silver dragon armor, with majestic dragon horns, cold lightning flashing his eyes, holding a spear, looking majestic and carrying a great pressure. He looked at the man in front of him, clenched his spear, pointed it at him, and said coldly, You finally dare to face me. Obviously, He mistakenly thought that the other party was afraid of him because he didn't come up for so long. As soon as these words were spoken, the onlookers were shocked. They had not expected that the two of them would be so hostile from the very beginning. And didn't this human kid help the demon race before? Why is he still so hostile? They were puzzled, but still looked like they were watching a show. After all, the fiercer the fight, the more exciting it was for them. When a star envoy saw this scene, he felt inexplicably sad for Bai Long. He looked at him deeply and then stepped aside. Boy, why do you mess with this god of death? After hearing Bai Long's words, Nangong Chen finally realized who was behind that faint murderous intent coming from the demon clan. So it's you, the Loach. I was wondering why I couldn't take a picture of it. Soon, after thinking it through, Nangong Chen shook his head and spoke calmly, without a trace of emotion on his face. No, you're overthinking it. I'm not like you, rushing here to die. To him, the other party was just a loach that could be easily suppressed, and there was no need to get angry with him. After all, the gap between the two from the beginning to the end is not on the same level. He was dressed in white, with double pupils that looked arrogant. When he opened and closed his eyes, there was a vision of heaven and earth collapsing. It was extremely terrifying and brought a great sense of oppression to everyone present. At this moment, he was surrounded by divine light, like a natural supreme being standing on the stage. Puff! Some weaker geniuses even couldn't help but retreat and spit out blood after seeing these eyes. The stronger monsters were still a little frightened, and their faces were extremely pale. Luanxin felt that creepy breath again. His face changed, as if he remembered something, and he gritted his teeth with some palpitations. Damn, I really want to dig out his eyes. Although he had a strong cultivation base, for some reason, he would always tremble inexplicably when he saw those eyes. Even Xian Jie shook his head after seeing it, muttering, "These eyes do have some strength, but that's all." When facing Bai Long, the difference in cultivation will be infinitely magnified. At this moment, he had to admit in his heart that if Nangong Chen and Bai Long were in the same realm, Bai Long would probably be suppressed. Below the ring, Hu Yaoyao's brows were furrowed tightly, and those eyes even made her nine tails feel a little uneasy. It's really terrifying. If he grows up, it's hard to imagine how powerful he will be. Hu Yaoyao thought to herself, and then sighed, alas, what a pity, the difference in cultivation is too big. If he had reached the level of God King, I'm afraid the ending would have been rewritten. The one who reacted most violently was Bai Long on the ring. His body was shaking, and his mind seemed to be devoured. It took him a while to react. By then, the clothes inside his armor were already soaked with cold sweat. After recovering from his shock, Bai Long regained his composure and said in a cold and confident voice, "Your eyes are so good. If I had given you a few more years, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to suppress you. But now you're at the peak of your power, and I've already reached the late stage of the Divine King. In today's battle, you will definitely lose." As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Long held a spear with lightning surrounding the tip. With a loud bang, he rushed towards Nangong Chen like a human-shaped beast. Silver light continuously emanated from its body, and the dragon horns on its forehead became increasingly majestic and dazzling, like a silver dragon swooping down from the sky. At this moment, the spear seemed to transform into the sharpest fang of a silver dragon, illuminating the entire starry sky. The ferocious dragon head vowed to tear the enemy in front of it to pieces. The space collapsed, and the void trembled. Such a terrifying blow frightened and shocked everyone present. They could even feel that even if a peak god king took this blow, he would be either dead or crippled. The Silver Dragon's roar, the Silver Dragon clan's innate magical power. And not only that, it has also been integrated into the spear's martial arts, reaching an indescribable level. At this moment, someone from the Demon Clan explained tremblingly. After hearing this, everyone suddenly realized what was going on, and then their eyes were filled with shock. A genius, an absolute genius, who can combine supernatural powers with martial arts. Throughout history, not many people have been able to do this. Obviously, Bai Long from the Demon Clan is a martial arts genius among millions. With this move, I'm afraid that if the human boy doesn't surrender, he will die on the spot. Seeing that Nangong Chen was unmoved, Xian Jie shook his head, and a hint of disdain appeared in his divine eyes. It's a pity, if you continue to grow up, your eyes may be comparable to mine. Thinking of this, he felt that there was no point in watching any further, and closed his eyes. After all, the winner had been decided, and there was nothing he could do to change the situation. Chapter 277. Kill Bai Long. Genius is just the threshold to see me. At this moment, on the ring, Nangong Chen looked calmly at the ferocious silver dragon with a calm expression, his black hair fluttering in the wind, and he looked absolutely confident. When some geniuses saw this, their eyes flashed with horror, and then they revealed a sneer and started to mock him. Could it be that he was really frightened silly? What a pity that a great formation master has to die in such a miserable way. Ha ha ha. Seeing a genius who is even more monstrous than you feel inferior in your heart. I think your heart of Taoism is about to be shattered. After hearing this, Li Qixin and the others clenched their fists and looked at them with cold eyes, but the situation was urgent, and they didn't have time to say anything more. They quickly turned their heads back to look at the arena. Seeing that the silver dragon was about to fall, Nangong Chen remained unmoved, and they were extremely anxious. Could it be that he really has some hidden cards? If we don't take action now, it will be too late. On the other side, Hu Yaoyao saw this scene and sighed sadly. She pursed her red lips and closed her almond eyes, unable to bear to see the cruel scene that followed. She knew better than anyone the power of Bai Long's attack, and she also knew that the situation had been settled and could not be rewritten no matter what. Only Su Li, who was standing under the arena, had 3,000 silver threads scattered on her shoulders, looking as cold and pure as an immortal. Even after seeing this scene, as Nangong Chen's Taoist partner, her beautiful face remained calm. She has absolute confidence in Nangong Chen. She believes in him, and that is enough. However, the next moment a whisper sounded from the ring. The voice was faint and as cold as a devil taking one's life. Genius, Nangong Chen muttered to himself, his pupils dim, as if the other party's extremely fast movements were as slow as a snail in his eyes. The next moment, he made a move, activating the secret of movement. His figure flashed like a ghost and disappeared from the spot in an instant, leaving no trace. Where are the people? This sudden change made everyone present exclaim in surprise. They widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief, and tried to find out where Nangong Chen was. The most shocked person was Bai Long on the ring. The smile on his lips suddenly froze, his eyes were filled with shock, and he stood there in a daze. The next moment, he felt a shock in his heart and an inexplicable chill behind him. Faintly, he even smelled a hint of death. With a loud bang, the intertwined sounds of the thunder colliding in the sky sounded violently and dully in the sky, as if the heaven was angry, resounding between heaven and earth, deafening. When Bai Long's face showed horror, he urged the huge dragon head to turn around and looked. When he saw the scene in front of him, he was stunned. I saw that the stars in the sky had turned into a terrifying sea of thunder. In the center of it, there was a figure in white, standing on the sky with his feet and his eyes looking around arrogantly like a god, standing there. This made him think of that day in the Immortal Treasure, when the other party was also so high and mighty, judging the death of all living beings and watching everything being destroyed mercilessly. Bai Long was scared, his eyes were pale, and his breathing was a little unstable, as if he could feel the smell of death that day again. Impossible. Impossible. This isn't a fairyland, and he hasn't set up a killing formation. He's only at the peak of the great power realm. There's no way he can kill me. I'm a genius. I'm a genius. I can't fall down. I absolutely can't fall down here. Bai Long's body trembled, and a trace of madness flashed in his eyes. That was the state that would only be manifested when one was under extreme fear and excitement. He knew that the other party was a true genius. Although he was only at the powerful level, he could use moves that made him feel threatened. In this case, he cannot be allowed to live. He will step on the opponent's corpse to prove his invincibility. Bai Long forced himself to suppress the fear in his heart, holding the spear, and once again condensed the silver dragon's roar. With a roar, he rushed towards Nangong Chen. When Nangong Chen saw this scene, his eyes were cold and without any emotion, as if he was looking at an ant, and he uttered a word lightly. Shock. The next moment, countless divine thunders fell from the sky and transformed into ferocious purple thunder dragons. Their power was overwhelming, and the aura they emitted seemed to tear the heaven and earth apart and split the sky open. At this moment, the silver dragon that Bai Long transformed into was insignificant in front of these thunder dragons, like an ant looking at the sky. Boom! As the thunder dragon fell, endless lightning covered the entire starry sky arena, so bright and dazzling that people could not open their eyes. After a while, the white light dissipated, and everyone was speechless for a long time as they looked at the scene before them. At this moment, on the starry sky arena, Nangong Chen stood in the void, his eyes looking arrogant, his white clothes fluttering, high above, like a young emperor, with an invincible aura. The surface of the arena, which was forged from meteorite iron, was charred black and full of holes after being struck by the divine thunder. It was hard to imagine that this was caused by human power. However, what shocked them the most was that even in the bumpy pit, there was not a single human figure to be seen, let alone the huge silver dragon. The result is obvious. Bai Long fell. Genius? It's just the threshold to meet me. At this time, Nangong Chen shook his head and said calmly, finishing the remaining half of the sentence, and then slowly landed and left the starry sky arena. The words were not loud, but they echoed in everyone's ears. The Star Envoy saw this scene and was not surprised. He calmly announced, Xiantian territory, Nangong Chen wins. As the Star Envoy finished speaking, everyone slowly came back to their senses and looked at everything in front of them in shock. After all, the reversal of the situation just now happened too quickly, in just a moment, making it difficult for them to react. After hearing Nangong Chen's last words, everyone present fell silent. No one dared to refute, no one dared to question. Even by long, the genius among geniuses was defeated. Let me ask from now on, who would dare to call themselves a genius in front of that man? This is a huge leap. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate the formation master who had made a stunning debut in the first round. They looked at the departing figure in white with fear in their eyes. Xianjia opened his eyes at some point and looked straight at Nangong Chen with his cold eyes, a hint of fear flashing in his eyes. I didn't expect that this person was so cunning and had such a terrifying thunder technique. I underestimated him. But that's all. If someone is so foolish as to think he can defeat him just by relying on this thunder technique, then he doesn't mind shattering his dream. Thinking of this, Xuanjie shook his head, retracted his gaze, stopped thinking about it, and continued to practice. Around him, Xian Hong and others had uncertain expressions. They had not expected the other party to be so powerful. Fortunately, they did not encounter each other in the first round, otherwise their fate would be no better than that of the fallen by long. This boy is quite capable, but he's quite arrogant. If he were to meet the Son of God, I'd make him realize that there are always people better than you, and there are always things better than you. After a long time, Xian Hong said this with a complicated expression. After hearing this, the two people beside him nodded one after another. It doesn't matter. I picked the woman next to that brat. She must be very important to him. When it's my turn later, I'm going to destroy her with all my might and make him feel the pain. That woman is just a pretty face. She didn't make any moves from beginning to end. I guess she's weak. I can easily deal with her. Xian Jinfei spoke, his eagle eyes flashing with cold light as he glanced at Su Li in the distance. All right, whether you can avenge our god clan depends on you. Jinfei, if you succeed, the Son of God will definitely be very surprised. After hearing this, Xuanhong's eyes lit up and he nodded. Not far away, Xian Xiangling was wearing a nun's robe. After watching the battle, a hint of surprise flashed across her beautiful eyes and she fell into deep thought for a long time. Obviously, this was beyond her expectations. According to her experience, such a thing was completely impossible, but the other party had killed the demon race genius so easily. Chapter 278, Underestimating the Opponent. And in the outside world. Oh no, that's not good. Following the old man's exclamation in the void, all the powerful people couldn't help but frown. What? Could Bai Long be a formidable figure in the demon realm? He doesn't sound like one. An elder from Qilin Gate spoke. After hearing this, the old man from Tianji Pavilion shook his head, handed the Myriad Worlds chart to them, and said, Just wait and see for yourself. The elder of Qilin Gate looked at him suspiciously and took it. He wanted to see what had scared the elder of Tianji Pavilion so much. Of course, other powerful people also gathered together and watched from aside. The Book of All Worlds, as the name suggests, records famous people and events in the 10 domains and is forged from materials that can transcend time and space. Soon, exclamations burst out from the mouths of these gray-haired old men. The second most evildoer in the demon realm, by long, the first prodigy to rise from the bottom, has already entered the late stage of the divine king at the age of only 30. It's the descendant of the legendary dragon. Oh my god, this is a pure-blooded creature that is even stronger than the prehistoric beasts. After hearing this, the powerful people around also widened their eyes. Some of them couldn't believe it. How is it possible that this random opponent I picked is a seeded player? Does this mean that my Xintian territory will lose its first battle, and those with double pupils will be eliminated? What should I do then? At this time, these strong men gradually accepted these facts, with expressions of despair and unwillingness on their faces, and were not as happy as before. I thought it was a nobody, but ended up drawing a shark. At this moment, the projected image showed that there was no one on the ring. Obviously, the two had not started fighting yet. Soon, Bai Long appeared on the projected screen. He was a spirited young man with a cold glint in his eyes. He was clad in silver armor. His demeanor was beyond the reach of even an ordinary genius. This also made these old men more convinced that the information they saw in this Book of All Worlds was not deliberately false, but was true. Fun Dao, who was hiding in the clouds, sneered secretly after seeing this scene and said to himself, It's best to eliminate him. He still wants to enter the Heritage Temple. He can only dream on. He even hoped that when the fight broke out, Nangong Chen would not surrender and be killed by the other party. That would be a great joy for him. At this moment, the people below felt more and more that something was wrong when they saw Bai Long coming on the stage. Hiss, do you think there's a possibility that the other party is also a demon? It's just that we don't know it. Indeed, before they saw the other party coming up, the eyes of the other people in the demon realm changed. They were filled with a hint of passion, as if they were certain that the other party would win. I just don't know what his cultivation level is. I guess he hasn't reached the Divine King realm yet. Otherwise, if he has, I'm afraid those with double pupils will be in trouble. Everyone said this, with a hint of deep fear in their eyes. Soon, Nangong Chen appeared on the screen. He had a deep gaze and was dressed in white. His double pupils had a great impact on people. With this peerless posture compared to the opponent, at least in terms of momentum, he has never lost. This also made many women's beautiful eyes light up, and their faces become obsessed after seeing it, and they became more and more determined that the other party would win. However, the next moment, everyone saw the man in silver armor pause for a moment, then said in a cold voice, "Your eyes are so good. If I had given you a few more years, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to suppress you. But now you're at the peak of your power, and I've already reached the late stage of the Divine King. In today's battle, you will definitely lose." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces changed drastically, as if they had heard something incredible. Oh my God, he's actually in the late stage of God King. Even though he's an unknown genius, I'm saying, with that kind of aura, how could he be an ordinary genius? It seems that we have underestimated the opponent. No, we have greatly underestimated the opponent. What should we do then? Could it be that those with double pupils will be eliminated in the first battle? For a moment, the expressions of the onlookers were extremely complicated. Those who previously supported the person with double pupils were now at a loss. But despite this, there were still people who loudly supported him. I believe in the one with double pupils. No matter if he is in the late stage of great power, he will definitely be able to kill him. Have you forgotten? The one with double pupils previously killed the giant Tianyuan in the cave. He was also at the God King level. After hearing these voices, those people's expressions gradually relaxed. If they suffered a crushing defeat in the first battle, it would undoubtedly shatter the faith of these geniuses. You know, he's a person with double pupils. If even he lost, who would dare to go to the immortal treasure in the next few sessions? As a silver light burst out in the projection, the opponent of the man with double pupils took action. Seeing this, everyone didn't dare to close their eyes for even a second, staring at the scene intently, for fear of missing any important scene. The next moment, they were stunned as they looked at the terrifying silver dragon in the picture. Is actually from the Dragon Clan? Someone said in shock, as if he had thought of something. He's not a dragon, but with such dragon might and magical powers. He's a descendant of a dragon, no doubt about it. The old man, who had seen the situation, immediately refuted it seriously after hearing it. After hearing that the other party was a descendant of a dragon, everyone's eyes turned dark. In the Xintian realm, any demon beast that has been stained with a trace of true dragon blood will mutate and become extremely evil, several times more powerful than the original ferocious beast. However, that was just the effect of a trace of true dragon blood. Not to mention, the genius of the demon clan in the projection is the descendant of a real dragon and a flood dragon, and has the blood of a real dragon. How much evil does this have to be? This one is countless times more powerful than the previous one, Tianyuan, and he is also in the late stage of Divine King. Those with double pupils are only at the peak of the powerful realm. The gap between the two is a world of difference. At this moment, those who had some knowledge were silent, and some of them turned pale and looked powerless. Soon, Bai Long in the picture took action. Holding a spear, he turned into an extremely terrifying silver dragon and rushed towards Nangong Chen with tremendous power. The other party even integrated martial arts into his supernatural powers. This is no ordinary genius, but a monster among geniuses. On the contrary, the person with double pupils stood there, as if he was frightened silly. Seeing this scene, even Chen Song, the ancestor of the heavenly array holy land, who was far away in the drunken immortal pavilion, shook his head, revealing a deep regret. It's too late to save him. If there's no other way, I'm afraid he'll die in the ring today. It's a pity. His death is a huge loss to our formation. The one with double pupils is most likely the reincarnated ancestor of the formation. He shouldn't have participated in the immortal treasure hunt. After hearing this, Zhuing couldn't help but defend the other party, saying, what if he's not the reincarnation of an ancestor at all, but just a genius? Why can't he participate in this immortal treasure hunt? Even if he is a genius, that's even worse. You don't know the importance of a master of formations. Even if we have to sacrifice our entire formation lineage in exchange for his life, it's worth it. Alas, Chen Song rejected it outright and then sighed. After hearing this, Zhu Ying was speechless. She had never thought that the formation method was so important to them. Thinking of this, her beautiful eyes were complicated and filled with regret as she looked at the man in white in the picture and murmured, "Unfortunately, I haven't accepted you as my master yet." Chapter 279, One Move and the Outside World exclaimed. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. At this moment, everyone in the entire Divine Dynasty was watching this scene. Some people's eyes turned red, and they couldn't help but speak. If it really doesn't work, then the prince should surrender. You can't joke with your own dragon body. Yes, the prince is still young. There are more possibilities and more hopes for him in the future. If he dies there, it would be a loss. Why is God so unfair? The prince is such a hero, a man who saved the country and the people. How could he die so young? They were truly thinking about Nangong Chen without any other thoughts, and they really wanted Nangong Chen to survive. After all, the other party is the hope of the entire Tianyuan. Inside the palace, Su Ming looked at this scene with a complicated expression. He whispered, "Your Majesty, should we cover up the projection? After all, if Nangong Chen really died there, it would be a disaster for the entire Tianyuan. The morale they had just built up would be wiped out at this moment." Nangong Chen stared at the projection intently. After hearing Su Ming's words, he knew what he was thinking and rejected it outright. He snorted coldly. "If even we don't believe him, who else in the world can be trusted? No need to hide it. Let the people of the world see how my son defeated that demon." His words exploded like thunder, resounding throughout the entire Divine Dynasty. Yes, if even they themselves don't trust each other, who else can they trust? For a moment, those people held back their tears, raised their fists, and said excitedly, "The prince will win. The prince will win." The sound was like a wave, covering the entire Divine Dynasty, with an extremely powerful momentum. Inside the palace, Wang Yuxuan and several other girls also looked at the projection with worried eyes. Although they believed that Nangong Chen could win, they couldn't help but worry about him when they saw the bright cold light blooming. When Su Yao saw this scene, she covered her eyes with her hands, unable to bear to see the other person die so cruelly. At this moment, the entire palace was silent, and everyone was looking at the projection, waiting for a miracle to happen. "The prince is missing." Suddenly, someone shouted, breaking the silence. In the projection, the situation reversed, and Nangong Chen's figure flashed like a ghost, dodging the attack of the terrifying silver dragon. In heaven, soon, a minister saw clearly a figure in the air and exclaimed. In the picture, Nangong Chen had arrived in the sky at some point. Lightning and thunder were entwined around him, and a sea of thunder was flashing behind him. He was dressed in white, standing there like a god of thunder. Such a stunning scene had a huge impact on everyone. Then, Nangong Chen took action. He was like a god. When he raised his hand, 1,000-foot-long divine thunder came down and turned into a purple thunder dragon, biting towards the silver dragon. And that silver dragon looked very small under these endless thunder dragons. The lightning was so blinding that it cast a white light, and no one could see what was happening. When the light faded away, the figure of the demon clan prodigy was no longer visible on the bumpy arena. As the star envoy finished speaking, the entire Xintian realm fell into deathly silence. Counterattack. Nangong Chen actually counterattacked and killed the genius of the demon realm in an instant. After a few moments of silence, the entire Tianyuan Divine Dynasty erupted in thunderous cheers. Nangong Chen looked at this scene, and the heavy stone in his heart finally fell. He smiled and murmured, "I knew that this kid would not do anything without confidence." He was also somewhat shocked. He had not expected that Nangong Chen had grown to this point, leaping across a great realm to kill the enemy. For his son, challenging higher-level players seems to be as easy as a daily routine. No one knows where the limit of this method is. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen showed an expectant look and continued to look at the projection in the void. China. No, how is that possible? He's only at the peak of the Great Power Realm, while the one opposite him is at the Late God King Realm, a huge realm ahead. He was killed instantly with just one move. Turns out we are the clowns. Everyone was speechless, totally unable to believe that this would be the outcome in the end. They had thought that the one with double pupils could fight back, but at least it would take at least 3 moves. After all, the gap in cultivation was real. However, the battle that took place at this moment made them somewhat self-doubting. With just one move, the ferocious silver dragon fell. If Xingqian hadn't spoken, they would have thought it had escaped. After a moment of silence, someone finally reacted and said, "Sure enough, there are more geniuses above the geniuses." Obviously, Nangong Chen's last words, "Genius is just the threshold to meet me," had a great impact on them. They also had to admit that today's battle indeed proved this statement. In the void, those powerful beings were also extremely shocked and speechless for a long time. It was hard for them to imagine that they could kill him under such circumstances. The speed that the double pupil person just unleashed is far beyond the reach of a powerful being. I would even believe he's a quasi-saint. A powerful man narrowed his eyes slightly and noticed some details just now. That's right, and there's also the Thunder method, the Thunder Emperor's magic that people have been talking about. Now it seems to be true. With his extreme speed and terrifying killing methods, if this boy doesn't die, he will definitely become the sharpest spear in the universe in the future. Other strong men also sighed. In Zhuaxian Pavilion, Chen Song felt a little embarrassed. He didn't expect to be slapped in the face. What was even more terrible was Zhu Ying's suspicious look. Chen Song coughed twice and said, "It seems that the other party was not only the ancestor of the formation in his previous life, but also a powerful person." After hearing this, Zhu Ying rolled her eyes at him and said, "Come on." She could now see that there was a greater possibility that the other party was a contemporary genius. Thinking that she would have to take a teacher from a person of the same age, no, even a little younger than herself, Zhu Ying couldn't help but blush. Chapter 280 Surrender or Die. Return to Xinzong. After seeing the candidates for the next round of competition, the geniuses began to discuss the matter. Xianjin Fei hiss. He's the third-ranked genius in the Burial Heaven domain, and someone actually made it to the second round. That's hard to say. Don't you know who that woman is? She's the woman who killed the god. Humph. So what if she's someone close to him? This girl is so beautiful. She's just a pretty face. I guess if it weren't for that guy, she would have been eliminated in the second round. Chill. Keep your voice down. The god of death is coming towards us. The remaining two men from the God clan were communicating with the others from the Sea clan. After they finished speaking, they looked at the Xintian realm in the distance with some fear. On the other side, Nangong Chen glanced at the group of people opposite and memorized their faces. There are still 2 Protoss left in the sea, right? You better pray that you don't meet me. You won't even have the chance to surrender. On the Starry Sky Arena, Suli was wearing a light blue fairy dress, with silver hair draped over her shoulders. Her face was extremely perfect, and she had an innate coldness and indifference, which made many people have a flash of surprise in their eyes when they saw her. Opposite him was a man from the God clan wearing a golden robe. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. His expression was somewhat disdainful, and the aura he exuded was extremely powerful. After some geniuses felt it, their expressions changed slightly. Another late-stage God King. That's right, this person is the same as Bai Long, also in the late stage of God King. The human woman opposite is only at the peak of her power. There's no way she can go against the tide like the last monster. Someone murmured after seeing it. After hearing this, the other geniuses also shook their heads. How is this possible? The appearance of a genius of Nangong Chen's caliber is already a monster among monsters. It's impossible that everyone around him is so invincible. Suli proudly raised her white head, holding a silver-white fairy sword, and looked at her opponent indifferently. There was no ripple in her beautiful eyes, as if in her eyes, he was just a piece of trash that could be killed at will. This attitude also made Xianjin Fei frown. He didn't know where this woman got her confidence from. He said coldly, "If you admit defeat, I can consider not hurting your face. Of course, if you don't refuse to admit defeat, don't blame me for being ruthless." After saying that, Xianjin Fei seemed to have thought of something and added, "I'm not like a loser like Bai Long who would be defeated by you powerful cultivators. If you're dreaming of that, you might as well surrender directly." He shook his head, his face full of disdain. When these words were spoken, everyone sighed. This person from the God clan is too arrogant. Fortunately, Bai Long is dead. If he hadn't died, he would have jumped out directly. When Yao Yu and others saw this, they frowned and looked dissatisfied. Isn't it an insult to their demon realm to just call Bai Long a waste? For a moment, many cold eyes were cast towards Xianjin Fei. Even Hu Yao Yao was the same. She gritted her teeth and said in a cold voice, "Xianjia, if you can't control your own dog, I can help you discipline it." After he finished speaking, Xianjia from the God clan frowned. He just glanced at them and said calmly, "We God clan have always valued freedom and divine authority. What does what he says have to do with me?" Okay. Hu Yao Yao clenched her jade hands, and veins on her fair and beautiful face were about to pop out. She suppressed her anger, and her almond-shaped eyes showed coldness. She looked at Xianjin Fei on the stage and said, "You'd better not meet me, otherwise I will let you see what it means to be as red as a flower." Xianjin Fei's expression changed, and he didn't dare to respond. If he didn't understand, it would only take one sentence. Is it necessary to be like this? Of course, his brows turned cold, and he blamed everything that happened on the woman in front of him. He thought that if it weren't for her, he wouldn't be targeted by Hu Yao Yao like this. Suli, who was at the center of public opinion, said nothing. She simply raised the snow-slashing sword in her hand and pointed it at the other party. Her beautiful eyes were ruthless as she said calmly, "I give you two choices, surrender or die." After the words fell, the entire arena fell silent, and those cold and resolute words were echoing in everyone's mind. Li Qixin and the others did not expect that Su Li would respond to the other party in such a domineering manner, which made them think of one person at the same time. Nangong Chen. Several people looked at each other and had the answer in their hearts. They sighed a little. These two people are indeed a pair. They are really a couple. Even their personalities are almost the same. When Shu Yin saw this scene, a hint of surprise flashed across her beautiful eyes, and then she lowered her eyes sadly. That's right. Only she is worthy of him. Nangong Chen, who was not far away, didn't pay attention to that place. His eyes were looking at Su Li from beginning to end. He looked indifferent, but the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. Very good. This is very Su Li. He didn't know why, but every time he saw Su Li's face, an inexplicable sense of familiarity and guilt would appear in his mind, as if they had known each other thousands of years ago. Of course, it could also be his illusion. Nangong Chen shook his head, without thinking too much, and withdrew his mind and focused his eyes on the ring. Surrender or die. Xian Jinfei was also stunned after hearing this. He didn't expect that the beautiful woman in front of him could speak so harshly. You really don't know your place. Do you really think that just because you're a couple, you could defy the heavens like this? Ridiculous. After Xian Jinfei reacted, his face turned cold. He secretly planned not to give the other party any more chances and said in a cold voice. The atmosphere was almost at its peak, and the star envoy who was presiding over the meeting also stood up and spoke in a tone devoid of emotion. Just a reminder, you can surrender after the battle. If there are no objections, the second battle begins now. After he finished speaking, the star envoy disappeared from the spot, stepped aside, and looked at him coldly. This means that the battle has begun. God, please help your people win the battle. I will serve you with the utmost loyalty. When the battle began, Xian Jinfei whispered with an extremely pious tone and clasped his hands together, like a believer. This strange behavior has also caused many people to be puzzled. What is he doing? I don't know. Could it be some kind of ritual of the gods? Hu Yaoyao raised her eyebrows slightly when she saw this scene and explained calmly. This is a blessing from the God clan. When fighting, they usually use this ritual to gain the power of the god. As soon as he finished speaking, a halo of light wrapped around Xian Jinfei, like wisps of breath, interweaving around his body, giving people a feeling of extreme danger. It was completely different from the aura emanating from Xian Jinfei before, as if he was a completely different person. That breath, something's wrong. Li Muxiu looked at this scene with his divine eyes and frowned. The energy in those light circles was extremely surging, which meant they had terrifying, destructive power. Those who blaspheme God shall be beheaded. Xian Jinfei said indifferently, revealing a divinity all over his body. Then his hand turned into a white light blade, and a golden exhaust seemed to burst out from behind him. With a bang, he rushed towards Su Li. The light blade was extremely cold and sharp, and it seemed that it could easily chop off a person's head with just one drop of the blade. This kind of intuitive sharpness made many people shudder after seeing this scene, as if a sickle was placed on their neck, making them suffocate. This is the heavenly wheeled divine blade. Even black gold cannot withstand this blow. Any means of defense for that human woman will be ineffective in front of this blow. When Xian Hong saw this scene, he shook his head and spoke slowly, his eyes cold, as if he had already seen the other party disappear into thin air. Even Li Qixin and others felt uneasy after seeing this, and their eyes revealed worry. Especially after hearing Xian Hong say this, he became extremely anxious. Call out. The light blade was so fast and so sharp that it easily tore through the air, making bursts of sonic booms. Even in Su Li's eyes, an arc of light was reflected, extremely bright. The next moment, Su Li took action. A sword light as bright as the moon appeared, carrying with it an unstoppable sword intent, as if it was going to cut everything in the world in half with one sword. Even where the sword light passed, it was like a cold winter passing by, with transparent and sharp ice cones rising up. The chill it exudes is even far beyond that of ordinary black ice. It is so cold that it can truly penetrate into the bone marrow and make people's souls shrink. For a moment, the entire arena was covered with frost and snowflakes, as if a real extreme cold had arrived. When Xian Jinfei saw this scene, he couldn't help but tremble in his heart. He actually smelled a hint of death in the sword light. He was a little bit unbelievable and stunned for a moment. How is this possible? At this moment, the sword light, as white as the moon, appeared in front of him. Seeing this, Xian Jinfei's heart hardened. He gritted his teeth and used all his strength to chop at the sword light with his hands that had turned into blades of light. I just don't believe it. You, a powerful being, can really kill me. Swish! The next moment, the sword light went straight through Xian Zhenfei's body the moment it touched him. Even the residual power it revealed could collide with the barrier behind him, triggering a lot of power. Everyone stared at the scene in a daze, some of them not understanding what was happening. Who's winning? Someone whispered, but no one answered him. This moment happened so fast that it was impossible to catch it with the naked eye. He couldn't even see Su Li raising his hand. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Boom! Xian Zhenfei fell to the ground with a loud bang, his face still showing his ruthlessness without any warning. However, even that wasn't enough. What was even more terrifying was that someone discovered that Xian Zhenfei's body had already frozen solid, and where he fell, there were a lot of ice fragments scattered. Hiss! Seeing this scene, there was silence all around. No one could utter a word. They looked incredulous, as if they had seen a ghost. They didn't expect that it would end like this. On the stage, the Star Envoy looked at Xian Zhenfei's corpse. After confirming that he was completely dead, he said indifferently, Xiantian territory, Su Li wins. After saying that, Su Li turned around, put Zhang Shui back into the scabbard, and walked away with a calm expression, as if what he had done was not a big deal. After Li Qixin and the others came to their senses, they also burst into excitement and cheered. Fuck, did I see that right? Killing a late-stage God King with 1 sword? Xiongda widened his eyes and took a deep breath. You're not mistaken, this is real. These two are more freaks than the other. It's incredible. Li Muxiu, who was standing next to him, also sighed. There was still a faint glow on the heavenly eye, which obviously had just opened. Li Qixin was shocked and said with a bitter smile, No way. My second place on the heavenly ranking is gone after I went back? Upon hearing this, everyone present was stunned and looked helpless. There is no way. It is indeed their misfortune to have these two freaks around. After seeing Su Li coming, everyone's faces were full of admiration, and they immediately made way for her. This is the treatment of the strong, and it is what Su Li deserves. As expected of the Ice Phoenix Goddess, she killed a late-stage divine king with 1 sword strike. I admire her. Yes, Ice Phoenix Goddess, your sword is really cool. Before I could even see clearly, the opponent fell. If you have time, could you please make way for me so that we can learn the sword skills? Come on, with your pig brain, you can learn it even if you want to. You'd better just be a meat shield. When Su Li passed by, everyone was chattering. Among them, Xiongda and Lu Daju were the most lively, making everyone laugh. After hearing what they said, Su Li didn't know what they were laughing at, but in order to agree with them, she could only force a fake smile and said coldly, haha. She felt that she should be able to understand the ways of the world. After all, Qiao had taught her that when others were happy, she should not ruin their atmosphere and should laugh with them. I even adjusted it a bit to make my fake smile more reasonable so they wouldn't notice. After doing all this, Su Li thought to himself that he was simply a genius, and he was very good at handling even the smallest interpersonal relationships. When everyone saw this, they felt a chill all over their bodies, shivered, and dare not say anything more for a moment. It was that kind of fake smile, and underneath Su Li's flawless face, there was a sense of horror. What was even scarier was that the other party seemed to be annoyed that they hadn't been scared, which made the fake smile even more terrifying. They glared at Xiongda and Lu Daju, thinking that they must have annoyed each other. Su Li was also a little confused when she saw that they suddenly stopped talking and asked, Why don't you continue talking? It's okay, I just suddenly thought of something sad. Lu Daju's eyes turned, and he seemed to realize something and said it carelessly. Su Li's eyes suddenly realized something, and then she glanced at Lu Dazui pitifully, shook her head, and left. She believed that if someone could feel sadness even in such a joyful mood, then that person must have had a very hard life since childhood, like those orphans. Chapter 281 The Reputation of the Ice Phoenix Goddess. Lu Daju had a silly look on his face, and when he saw the other person's eyes, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Having been doing business with his father since he was a child, how could he not know what the other party was thinking? Well, I was misunderstood. When Li Qixin and the others saw this scene, they looked at each other with a look of gloating in their eyes. On the other side, the gods. After seeing Xian Zhenfei being cut down by Su Li with 1 sword, Xian Jie could no longer sit still. He stood up, looked coldly towards Xian Tianyu, gritted his teeth, and said in a deep voice, How dare such a despicable race kill people like us, the God Clan? They deserve to die. What he was dissatisfied with was not Xian Zhenfei's death, but the fact that Xian Zhenfei was killed by the human race. The self-respect that Xuan Jie has been taught since childhood will not allow the gods to be blasphemed and insulted by others in this way. Zuin watched the scene calmly, without saying a word. Even when she saw Xian Zhenfei's death, there was no ripple in her golden eyes from beginning to end. Xian Hong and the other man also changed their expressions. After seeing Xian Zhenfei's body, they were still unable to react. After a long time, a look of shock appeared on their faces. The woman next to that kid is only at the peak of the great power realm. How could she kill Xian Zhenfei, who is at the late stage of the God King realm? Or kill instantly with one sword? I can't imagine. If they meet, they will be in trouble. It was all thanks to Xian Zhenfei, who explored the way for them early on. Otherwise, they would have been the ones to die. If you encounter anyone from Xintian territory later, kill them mercilessly. Don't waste your words. Go all out, and don't give them even a chance. Xian Jie clenches fists. His only chance for revenge now would be to wait and see whoever was also drawn by the Xintian domain. Yes, Xian Hong and another man from the God clan bowed, with serious expressions, and responded respectfully. They now dare not look down on other human beings, for fear that the two monsters just now will appear again, and if they are not careful, they will lose their lives. Therefore, they still have to be cautious now. After all, Xian Zhenfei has already sounded the alarm for them. After hearing their response, Xuanzhe's expression finally eased a lot. He seemed to have thought of something and said, if that idiot Xian Zhenfei hadn't been so careless, if he had unleashed his full strength earlier, the other party wouldn't have been able to kill him with a single sword strike. Besides, if I'm not mistaken, that woman's true cultivation level might not be at the peak of great power, but rather a half-step divine king. After hearing this, Xian Hong and the others looked dazed. So this is what happened. However, even if he is only a half-step God King, being able to kill a genius in the late God King stage is still very terrifying, and he can be regarded as a genius among geniuses. Not far away, in the demon realm, seeing the death of the previously arrogant Xian Zhenfei, the monsters actually felt a little sad. The woman beside that lord is so terrifying. Am I seeing correctly? She is only at the great power level. As expected, genius cannot be measured by cultivation. No, it seems that only the human race's geniuses are so perverted. If it were changed to other domains, it wouldn't be so outrageous. I don't know why, but seeing their gods suffer so much, I feel a lot better. After watching the whole scene, Hu Yaoyao couldn't help but remain silent. She pursed her lips, and a hint of surprise flashed in her beautiful eyes. If there was only one monster like Nangong Chen, it would be understandable, but I didn't expect that there would be two such people in the same generation. If this woman were at the same level as me, she would not be inferior to me. In her heart, Hu Yaoyao gave Su Li a very terrifying evaluation. In addition, Hai Wuhan from the sea area and the Buddha Sun from the Buddha area had gloomy faces and flickering eyes after watching this battle. It was unknown what they were thinking. Some people even vaguely thought that Su Li, who could kill a late-stage God King with one sword strike, was more terrifying than Nangong Chen, and they did not want to meet him in the next battle. In the corner, there was a hint of fear in Luan Xin's eyes, as if he had thought of something, and then his expression turned cold, and he muttered, "The talents of these two are truly terrifying, one more terrifying than the other. No, we must report them to the leader before we get out. Once they grow up, they will undoubtedly pose a huge threat to the blood god cult. It must be strangled in the cradle when it is still young." Outside world, when everyone saw Su Li kill Xian Zhenfei with one sword, there was an uproar. Oh my god, so this is the Ice Phoenix goddess' true strength. It's so terrifying, no wonder she's so fearless. As the Taoist companion of a person with double pupils, she's not weaker than him at all. By the way, did you notice that the moment that sword light fell, it seemed as if the entire arena was frozen? Even through the projection, I could almost feel that chill. For a moment, everyone's faces were hot, and they sighed, their mouths full of praise for Su Li. Many people also lamented the perfect match between the man with double pupils and the Ice Phoenix goddess. They seemed like a match made in heaven, a couple from heaven. No wonder they were able to be together. As for the young disciples, they were even more excited. 2 battles had already passed in the arena competition. They from the Xintian domain had defeated the geniuses from various domains in a crushing manner. It was so satisfying to watch. In the void, after seeing this scene, these strong men fell into silence. They thought of Su Li's extraordinary talent. After all, that day in Chu City, he was able to defeat Yi Guqing in one fell swoop and directly enter the top 5 of the heavenly ranking. But that was Yi Guqing, after all, a person who was eliminated early in the first round. But the gap between him and these top monsters in other domains was like a chasm. Such a monster from another domain was killed by a young girl with just one sword. If I'm not mistaken, that icy force, just now, has Su Li already comprehended his own sword intent. A powerful man with sharp eyes said in a voice of disbelief. Everyone present looked at Zhao Lei. After all, he was a living swordsman. Yes, she has indeed comprehended her own sword intent, and it is almost forming a force. Zhao Lei was silent for a long time before he spoke slowly. You have to know that it took him over 1,000 years to comprehend the Thunder Sword intent, while the other party, a girl in her teens or 20s, had only practiced swordsmanship for a few years, and yet had achieved such accomplishments. This was a huge blow to him, and he felt that his cultivation had been in vain. Sword intent transforming into power. Oh my god, doesn't that mean she's already reached the perfection of sword intent, and has taken a step further, vaguely approaching perfection? Someone said in shock. You know, in the entire Xiantian domain, people with perfect sword intent can be counted on one hand, and in modern times, there's only one person who has reached the level of Huajin, and that is Zhao Lei. Who is Zhao Lei? He was born with a sword body and a transparent sword heart. His obsession with swords is unprecedented and will never be surpassed. He has been practicing since he was a child, and it took him thousands of years to reach perfection. This is already a miracle. You know, since ancient times, countless sword masters have been stuck at the stage of perfect sword intent and have never been able to move forward until their bones turn to dust. And how old is Su Li? But she's almost catching up with Zhao Lei. No wonder, a single sword can kill a late-stage god king. Horrible, truly terrifying. After someone realized what was happening, they sighed belatedly, their eyes filled with shock. A sword-wielding monster. In this world, who else would dare to call herself that except the Ice Phoenix goddess in the future? At this moment, Zhao Lei's old and resolute eyes showed a rare fiery look. He was extremely excited. He had never thought that in his twilight years, he would actually meet such a swordsmanship prodigy. When this girl comes out, I will definitely take her in as my disciple. Zhao Lei murmured that whether his swordsmanship could be passed on depended on the other party. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. At this moment, the entire Divine Dynasty was bustling with activity and excitement, and every citizen's face was filled with excited smiles. I didn't expect that after seeing the Crown Prince kill the White Dragon in one move, I would also see the Crown Princess display the same power and kill Xian Jinfei in an instant with one sword. This was a very satisfying sight for them. They still vividly remembered the arrogant expression of that Protoss's genius. In the palace, the Crown Prince is incredibly brave, and the Crown Princess is equally valiant. They are truly heroic women of our time, as capable as any man. They are worthy of emulation by all the women of the Divine Dynasty. His heroic demeanor shocked the world, and he stood at the forefront of the tide, not to be outdone by other men. It has to be Prime Minister Su, who gave birth to such an outstanding daughter. Words of praise came from the mouths of these ministers. It must be said that they, who had been well educated since childhood, finally had a place to use their knowledge. Su Ming's face was flushed with pride, and he couldn't suppress the smile on his lips. This was the happiest moment in a man's life. He said modestly, No, it's all thanks to the Crown Prince's good vision. He fell in love with my daughter so early on. Without your Majesty's help, my daughter would never have made it this far. These nice words actually made many people in the audience look shocked. They didn't expect that a person could flatter so smoothly. Of course, after hearing this, Nangong Zhan's resolute and domineering face also showed his white teeth. You are so polite. If it weren't for your daughter's hard work and relying on that brat, how could she have become famous throughout the Xiantian realm? Nangong Zhan now likes his daughter-in-law, Su Li, very much. He really didn't expect that his son was already so talented, but he didn't expect that his daughter-in-law could actually catch up with his son. What concept? Looking at the entire Xiantian domain, anyone who can achieve this level can be considered a monster among monsters. He sighed a little. These two young people really deserve to be a couple, one hiding deeper than the other. If he hadn't entered this immortal treasure, I'm afraid this old man would have been kept in the dark forever. Not far away from the court, Wang Yuxuan and others also had their beautiful eyes dimmed after seeing this scene. They knew there was a huge gap between them and the goddess, but they didn't expect it to be this big. It's no wonder that the master didn't take them into the immortal treasure this time. With their strength, they would probably be sent there to be delivered. Alas, it seems that I can only be the younger one in the future. Wang Yuxuan muttered softly. After hearing this, Zhou Wan'er, who was standing by, glanced at her sideways. There was no color in her dark eyes, and they were very calm, as if all this had nothing to do with her. She doesn't care whether she is big or small. As long as she can follow Nangong Chen and give her all without hesitation when he needs her, it is enough. As for the other person's love for her, she had never thought about it, nor did she dare to think about it, for she was afraid that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. No! Suddenly, Lu Rian spoke, as if she had made a decision, and a look of determination appeared on her cold and pretty face. Wang Yuxuan and Zhou Wan'er were stunned, and then looked at the same time. What's wrong with this girl? As for why Su Yao was not here, It was because she was greedy and ate too much fruit, so her mother pulled her over and yelled at her. I want to become stronger too. Catch up with him. When Lu Rian saw them looking at her, she expressed what she was thinking. After hearing this, Wang Yuxuan seemed to be able to see through her thoughts and said jokingly, catch up with him? Oh, you like the master, don't you? Who likes him? Lu Rian's ears turned red, and her words became a little unsteady. She stammered, and then, as if she had thought of something, she explained, I am just the eldest sister of Tianyuan sword sect. I must not leave them behind too much. Otherwise, when the time comes, we in Tianyuan will have no more outstanding geniuses besides them. Wouldn't that make us a laughingstock? Okay, no more words. I'm going to go back to seclusion first. When they come out, please say hello to him for me. Before the two of them could say anything, Lu Ruyan slipped away as if escaping. Her waist-length black hair was very eye-catching. What she said does make sense. As the master's personal guards, it's almost time for us to start training. Wang Yuxuan also said in a low voice after seeing her leave. Haven't you been practicing for this month? Zhou Wana looked at her strangely. Although she had been here for the past month, as long as there was no camera projection of Nangong Chen, she would immediately stop to practice. Of course, as long as Nangong Chen appears, she can stop instantly. She can be regarded as a master of time management. After hearing this, Wang Yuxuan was stunned for a moment, and then she carefully sensed the other party's breath and found that Zhou Wana had already stepped into the realm of great power from the peak of Purple Mansion at some point. And I am only at the peak of Purple Mansion. You actually practiced secretly behind my back. Wang Yuxuan was struck by lightning. She never thought that the girl who had asked her to borrow the storybook would do such a dirty thing. Isn't this normal? After all, I am the master's personal guard, and you are just his personal maid. We have different responsibilities, Zhou Wana said lightly, taking a sip of tea. Her delicate and fair face was calm as she sat there upright, looking very elegant. After hearing this, Wang Yuxuan wanted to vomit blood, but she couldn't. She could only stare at her with her big eyes indignantly, trying to kill her with her eyes. Chapter 282, Voluntary Surrender. Xian Jie takes action. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. The third battle will be between Hu Yaoyao from the Demon Realm and Xi Meng from the Mysterious Sky Realm. On the Starry Sky Arena, the Star Envoy calmly announced the candidates for the next battle. As soon as these words were spoken, all the geniuses present were in an uproar. He actually drew the genius from Xiantian Domain in 3 consecutive games. However, when they heard that it was Hu Yaoyao, everyone felt sorry for this genius named Xi Meng. It seems that someone from Xiantian Domain is finally going to be eliminated. Who was Hu Yaoyao? She was the favorite to win the championship. As for Xi Meng, none of them had ever heard of her. They only had an impression that she seemed to be a woman from Xiantian territory. For an unknown genius to meet the favorite to win the championship, it goes without saying that he has no chance of winning. Xi Meng, it's your turn. In the audience, Chu Yin was also somewhat shocked after hearing this and looked at the purple-haired woman beside her. Li Qixin and others were also a little surprised. They didn't expect that Xi Meng's opponent would be Hu Yaoyao. If you're defeated, you must surrender. The Fox Princess has no ill will towards us and will not kill us. Li Qixin spoke. Xi Meng had purple hair and beautiful eyes as bright as the stars. She closed the ancient book in her hand, nodded slightly, stood up, and walked towards the arena. The other side, Hu Yaoyao didn't expect that it would be her turn to fight in the third round. She showed a helpless expression and flew towards the ring. The demon race's genius behind her also showed enthusiasm when she saw this, and said excitedly, Princess, you will win. Let the world see the true evil of our demon race. They were very confident in Hu Yaoyao and believed that there was no possibility of her losing. Although the Xiantian territory's human race won the first 2 matches, that was different. They didn't encounter the monsters who were the favorites to win. If they had, the outcome would have been unpredictable. Now that the 2 most evil people in the human race have been defeated, it is impossible that the remaining ones are more evil than them. On the ring, Hu Yaoyao moved lightly with her lotus steps. Her face was very charming and enchanting, and her almond-shaped eyes were filled with innate charm, captivating people and making people fall in love with her easily. The 9 white, furry tails behind him swayed slightly, each emitting a terrifying demonic aura, which was the suppression from the most top-notch bloodline of the demon clan. After everyone felt Hu Yaoyao's charm, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva, their eyes flashing. That charm made them want to kneel down and surrender to her, even from a distance. It is hard to imagine that if they met face to face, they would probably be confused and die without knowing the reason. Thinking of this, everyone's complexion returned to normal. Some cold sweat appeared on their foreheads, and their eyes were full of fear as they looked at the woman on the ring. Obviously, Hu Yaoyao is definitely a rose with thorns, and the thorns are stained with poison. They dare not have any thoughts. Hu Yaoyao came to the center of the arena. After seeing the newcomer, he showed a hint of surprise and said, "Oh, little sister, it's you." Her voice is very magnetic and pleasant, a standard mature lady voice. She didn't expect that Xi Meng was the woman in front of her. She had communicated with her before, and her image with purple hair left a deep impression on her. Xi Meng's purple hair reached her waist, and her appearance was equally stunning as a fairy. After hearing Hu Yaoyao's words, she also smiled sweetly. "Hello, Sister Fox." This smile made many men present feel aroused. Seeing the other party calling her sister, Hu Yaoyao also smiled, and her liking for Xi Meng immediately increased a lot. She liked this kind of pretty and polite girls the most, but it was a pity that the other party was not from the demon clan, otherwise she would have to become her good friend. Hu Yaoyao showed kindness, walked up to the other party, and soon started chatting with Xi Meng. "Sister Xi Meng, you're too polite." "Oh, your purple hair is so pretty. I'm so envious." "Sister Fox, you're joking. Your blonde hair is beautiful too, as bright as the sun. It suits you perfectly." The two women spoke one after another, as if this competition was just a chat club between them, and they didn't care about other people's eyes at all. Of course, other geniuses didn't say much when they saw this scene. At most they made a few complaints, but most of them just watched silently. The reason was simple. These two women were simply too pleasing to the eyes. Both women are stunningly beautiful, but have their own unique styles. One has blonde hair draped over her shoulders, looking charming and enchanting, while the other has purple hair that reaches her waist, looking gentle and graceful like jade. The star envoy just watched silently without saying much. After all, this did not violate the rules. Below the stage, Li Qixin and the others were also somewhat shocked when they saw this scene. When did their relationship become so good? I don't know. Didn't they just exchange a few words before? Why do they look like a pair of sisters who regretted not meeting each other earlier? Chuyin rolled her eyes at them when she heard what they said and muttered, "What do you grown men know?" In the distance, Nangong Chen watched for a while and then felt a little bored, so he started practicing directly. Fairy light was all around him, which was very magical. For him, there was nothing left for him to do but wait until they finished fighting. He might as well use this time to continue practicing. Seeing this, Suli didn't practice like Nangong Chen, but continued to look at the arena. She could feel that the two women's eyes were looking over here from time to time when they were talking, and she didn't know what they were talking about. Xi Meng would not mention Nangong Chen on her own initiative, and the only possibility was that the golden-haired fox still had evil intentions. Thinking of this, Su Li's brows frowned. If she met that fox next time, she would definitely teach her a lesson. Seeing Su Li looking at her, Hu Yaoyao's eyes were startled, and a hint of guilt appeared on her face. "You said that you humans allow polygamy?" she asked in a low voice. Su Li really guessed it right. She still has evil intentions. No, it should be said that she still has evil intentions. Yeah, what's wrong? Sister Fox, is she interested in a man from our Xiantian territory? I can help you with that, Xi Meng said with a smile. Hu Yaoyao shuddered upon hearing this, and then quickly refused, explaining, "No, I've never been to your Xiantian territory, and I don't know the customs of your human race. I was just asking casually." "I see." Xi Meng did not expose her, but nodded thoughtfully, her eyes flashing as if she could see through what she was thinking. "Yeah, I'm the princess of the Fox tribe. How could I possibly fall for you humans? If she did, she must be a demon, okay?" Hu Yaoyao continued to raise the price, feeling more and more guilty. She really wanted to tell the lady directly that she had a crush on her, and asked her if there was any way, but she was afraid that it would scare the other person. Not long after, the Star Messenger's voice sounded again. "There's only one stick of incense left before the end of the competition. If the winner hasn't been decided yet, both players will be eliminated." After hearing this, the two women looked at each other and could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. "It seems we have to separate. Sai, if possible, I really want to surrender and let you advance, but I have reasons why I can't lose." Hu Yaoyao said this sincerely and sighed. She didn't want to fight to the death, but there was no other way. After hearing this, Xi Meng smiled knowingly. She could really feel the other party's sincerity. Then, without hesitation, she took the initiative to say, "I give up." After saying this, the Star Envoy nodded, and then calmly announced, "In the demon realm, Hu Yaoyao wins." After hearing this, the demons and others also cheered. Although we didn't see Hu Yaoyao take action, as long as the other party won, the goal would be achieved. Hu Yaoyao was somewhat moved. As she was leaving, she whispered, "If possible, you can come to my demon domain as a guest in the future. I will definitely not treat you unfairly." If a princess of a certain domain could say such words, then it must be true. If I have the chance, I'd also like to go and see what your demon domain looks like. Of course, you're always welcome to come to our Xiantian domain. Xi Meng also smiled, not all sad about being eliminated. She was already very satisfied to be able to get here this time. The next battle will be between Xianjie of the God Clan and Niu Fei of the Demon Realm. After he finished speaking, Xuanjie opened his eyes and a divine light burst out. The aura was so powerful that it made people feel suffocated. He was dressed in a golden robe and walked in the air, arriving at the center of the arena in a flash. Xuanjie's opponent is an ordinary genius in the Demon Realm from the Tianyuan clan. Niu Fei stood trembling on the ring. Even though his body was huge enough to look down on many people present, he was obviously not good enough in front of Xianjie. After a while, as the battle began, a huge finger condensed above the arena, emitting divine light, and fell down with a bang. This force is too terrifying, and the speed is also extremely fast. I vote. When Niu Fei saw this, his pupil shrank, and he shouted. But before he could finish his words, a pool of blood mist appeared on the ring. At this moment, the whole place was silent. After seeing this, the Star Envoy calmly announced that Xuanjie was the winner. Xuanjie ignored other people's thoughts, looked at others with disdain, and walked away with a very proud step. After a while, a series of exclamations were heard quietly. Is this the strength of the last immortal treasure champion? That Niu Fei was a late-stage divine king, born into the Celestial Beef clan. His defense was almost top tier among all the demon beasts, yet he was still killed with a single finger. This is so terrifying. If we were to encounter such a genius, wouldn't it depend on his mood, whether we could surrender or not? I just wonder what would have happened if we had met those two evildoers from Xintian territory earlier. Needless to say, no matter how monstrous they are, they can't be stronger than Xianjie. You know, he has been at the peak of the Divine King for a long time, and can basically be considered a semi-saint. From a distance, Luan Xin saw this scene and was also horrified. He murmured, "This boy cannot be kept. It's too terrifying. He is much stronger than when he was the God King. Moreover, he is so young that he is the only one here who requires him to use 30% of his strength." Li Qixin and others were also very wary when they saw it. Just from this one finger, they could tell a lot of things, including the opponent's martial arts attainments and strength. I can only say it's terrifyingly strong. This made him think of Nangong Chen and Su Li, and he wondered if they could fight. Then, he shook his head as if mocking himself. How could they possibly fight against the other side? They didn't even have a divine king. There was a whole realm gap between them. I wasn't kidding. Alas, I hope they don't encounter them when they make it into the top 10. Xianjie is indeed a monster. If we meet him, we'd better surrender as soon as possible. Xiongda whispered, his eyes full of fear. Everyone swallowed and nodded. Not far away, Su Li also watched the entire battle, her beautiful eyes flashing, and she was silent. She could feel that only if she reached the God King realm would she be able to defeat the opponent. With her current strength, if she met him, she would probably be at a disadvantage. I don't know if Nangong Chen can defeat him. Su Li glanced at Nangong Chen, who was practicing beside her, and said to herself, in the demon realm, seeing that Niu Fei was killed by Xianjie before he could even say he surrendered, the monsters were furious for a moment, but they didn't dare to say anything more. After all, the other party is Xianjie. He is a monster among monsters. Hu Yaoyao frowned. She knew that the other party was strong, but she didn't expect him to be this strong. The move, just now, was so fast that she could hardly see it clearly. As for Niu Fei's death, she didn't say anything. After all, this was a ring competition, and people would definitely die. It was not easy to get a top 10 position. Of course, she would not swallow this humiliation. If she met other people from the God Clan, she would attack them without mercy. At this time, in the outside world, everyone was shocked when they saw Xuanjie take action. They could not imagine that there would be such a monstrous genius who could kill a God King with just one strike. This Xuanjie from the God Clan is the champion of the previous session that Overlord mentioned. He is indeed extraordinary. This strength is simply too terrifying, just like a saint taking action. This person's existence will definitely become a difficult obstacle for our Xintian territory. Alas, I hope those with double pupils won't encounter one in the next draw. In the void, those powerful people saw this scene and were also extremely shocked. The sense of oppression brought to them by the young man from the God Clan was so strong that they couldn't even imagine what realm such a person would reach if he grew up. Whenever this happens, there are always some people who shake their heads and feel sorry for those with double pupils. If I had gone to Xinzong a few years later, everything might have been different. Obviously, they were not optimistic that anyone among them could match Xianjie's strength. Chapter 283. Why are you yelling so loudly? Inside the Immortal Treasure House. The next battle will be between the Buddha realm and the Buddha's son, and the sea realm and the end of the sea. On the ring, the Star Envoy said lightly. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd in the audience couldn't help but boil over. The Buddha's son in the Buddha realm is also a monster that cannot be ignored. With the cultivation level of the peak God King and the natural Buddha body, it is no exaggeration to say that he is the favorite to win the championship. On the other side of the sea, an ordinary-looking man in a blue robe shuddered when he heard it. He didn't expect that he had drawn the Buddha's disciple. The Buddha realm is the third realm and ranks among the top among the 10 realms. Needless to say, the geniuses therein are definitely stronger than their sea realm. Not to mention this Buddhist disciple, it is no exaggeration to say that he is on the same level as Lord Hai Wuhan. Hai Wuhan frowned. He didn't expect that his luck would be so bad that he drew the Buddha's son. If you can't defeat them, just surrender. Hai Wuhan spoke, his eyes flashing. Even he himself did not have the confidence to say that he could defeat a genius like Fozi. After hearing this, Hai Tianyuan also gave a bitter smile and then walked towards the ring. On the other side, in the center of the arena, the Buddhist disciple had been waiting for a long time. His eyes were calm. He was twirling the Buddhist beads in his hands, and he was muttering something. Seeing the other party coming up, he nodded slightly. Ba, benefactor, you are here. Hai Tianyuan was stunned. He didn't expect that a genius of the other party's level would actually take the initiative to greet him. He was really flattered. With the order from the Star Envoy, the battle began. Hai Tianyuan was about to surrender when he heard a voice in his mind. Donor, there's no need to surrender. You and I can negotiate for a while. This way, we won't offend you. When the time is right, you can surrender. What this means is that the other party let him win and made the match fixed. Right? Hai Wuya's eyes gleamed with brilliance. This was truly a win-win situation for him. If he had not been forced to do so, he would not have wanted to surrender voluntarily. He was able to stand out from the billions of people in the sea, so naturally he was a little arrogant. Thinking of this, Hai Wuya didn't even hesitate and sent a message back with some excitement. Thank you, Fozi. You are such a good person. After hearing this, the Buddhist disciple showed a very subtle smile on his face, and the coldness in his eyes disappeared in an instant. Finally got fooled. Soon, both of them made their moves. After seeing this scene, the people in the audience didn't notice anything. After all, the communication between the two was only a moment, and there was nothing strange about it. On the contrary, they even admired the unknown genius in that sea area, who refused to surrender at the beginning and was considered a real man. His opponent is a Buddhist disciple from the Buddha realm. Although no one can see him take action, the demons from the Buddha realm have always been weak. Hai Tianyuan stretched out his hands, and a blue light flashed in his eyes. The next moment, a layer of sea water fell from the sky, carrying a powerful force, trying to suppress it. This round of sea water is not ordinary sea water, but a sea of death with unique characteristics. It is not only incredibly heavy, but also corrosive. If an ordinary person were to encounter this, he would be turned into dry bones in an instant. When the Buddhist disciple saw this, he also clenched his right hand into a palm, and the Buddha's light shone on him. Those ancient runes wrapped around his body. Suddenly, a giant golden palm condensed in the void and pressed towards him. This power was extremely overwhelming, like an ancient golden sea filling the sky. Above it, it seemed as if a Buddha had descended, bringing with it a terrifying sense of oppression. After seeing this, everyone present couldn't help but shrink their pupils and were extremely shocked. Is this the true strength of this evildoer from the Buddha realm? Compared to Xianjia, he was only slightly at a disadvantage. When Xuanjia saw this palm, he also opened his eyes with a very calm look, as if he saw a slightly larger ant. Among this group of people, I have some strength, but that's all. Xuanjia thought about it, shook his head, and gave an evaluation. Xian Hong and the others were also a little shocked after hearing this. This was the highest praise they had ever heard from each other. That terrifying palm strike actually had some power. It's hard to imagine how far the Son of God has come. The two of them thought to themselves and retracted some of their previous bad thoughts. Back on the ring, Hai Tianyuan couldn't help swallowing his saliva when he saw the huge palm falling. Could this fakery be turning into reality? With such power, I felt like I would die instantly if it landed on me. However, when he saw the calm smile of the Buddhist disciple beside him, he breathed a sigh of relief, and a feeling of admiration arose in his heart. He is indeed a demon of the time. He can actually act to such a level that he is far beyond his reach. Hai Wuya became a little excited when he thought that his sea god tide would block the attack, and the people in the audience would look shocked. I didn't expect that I would become famous in one battle. However, the idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. As the giant Buddha's palm fell, there was a loud bang, and the sea tide had no power to resist it. It was swallowed up in an instant and disappeared without a trace. Afterwards, the Buddha's palm continued to fall downwards with undiminished power and terrifying force. When Hai Tianyuan saw this scene, his pupils shrank and the smile on his face became a little stiff. Why don't you stop? If you really fall, you will really die. However, at this time, the Buddha's voice sounded again, with a hint of teasing. Donor Hai, thank you for your blood. I will keep it well. After hearing this, Hai Tianyuan was stunned. Without time to think, his eyes were filled with horror. He immediately shouted, I want to vote. However, before he could finish his words, the giant palm of Buddha's light came down directly. Under the gaze of everyone, a blood mist suddenly burst out. After seeing this scene, the star envoy announced calmly, the Buddha's son from the Buddha realm wins. After hearing this, the Buddhist disciple's right eye flashed with an evil light, and he silently absorbed the blood mist into his pupils. After doing all this, he shook his head and said with a hint of regret, Donor, why don't you surrender? If it weren't for this competition, I wouldn't have killed so many people. After these words were spoken, everyone slowly came back to their senses. Yes, why didn't Hai Tianyuan surrender? The gap is so huge, even a child would know to surrender as soon as he goes up. But this Hai Tianyuan actually went to die in vain? For a moment, everyone was speechless, lamenting how stupid this person was. Over in the sea, Hai Wuhan's face turned cold. Seeing this scene, he clenched his fists and cursed coldly. What an idiot. I've never seen anyone so stupid. Even though they're defeated, they still refuse to surrender. Li Qixin and others who were not far away, while secretly marveling at the power of the Buddha's disciple, could not help but be puzzled by the actions of the Sea clan's genius. Alas, the Sea area, it seems there really is something wrong with that aspect. It's really pitiful, Lu Dazhu said with some regret, looking at Hai Wuhan in the sea with a hint of pity. When Hai Wuhan saw his eyes, he glared back fiercely. What does this human boy mean? After seeing this scene, Wang Tung and the others smiled and couldn't hold it back. I don't know if it was fate, but the next candidates for the battle were Lu Dazhui and Hai Wuhan. After hearing the words of the star envoy, Lu Dazhui was not at all afraid. He walked towards the ring with a high and proud attitude. This attitude also caused many people below to speculate that this person was very likely a hidden monster in Xintian realm. On the other side, Hai Wuhan was also a little surprised after seeing this. His eyes showed some suspicion, and he fell into deep thought. Could it be that this person was just pretending and actually wanted to catch me off guard? Soon, the star messenger announced the start of the battle. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Dazhu roared, I want to surrender. This sound frightened Hai Wuhan so much that his heart trembled and his body became unstable. He even summoned the life-saving Poseidon shield. Not only him, but everyone in the audience was also a little confused, as if they were walking on the street and were yelled at for nothing. However, after hearing the second half of Lu Dazhu's words, their expressions gradually became interesting. No, I didn't seem to hear what he said. He seemed to say that he wanted to surrender. At this moment, Hai Wuhan also reacted. His face gradually darkened, and he gritted his teeth and said, Why are you yelling so loudly about surrendering? In the sea area, Hai Wuhan wins. The star envoy announced, looking deeply at Lu Dazhu. This kid scared me. After hearing this, Lu Dazhui seemed to be relieved of a heavy burden. With a smile on his face, he left the ring without looking back. Only Hai Wuhan, with a cold face, was left there. Hai Wuhan snorted coldly. Although he won, for some reason, it felt even worse than losing. Thinking of this, he left quickly and remembered Lu Dazhu deeply. At this moment, everyone outside couldn't help but smile when they saw this scene. Ha ha, the young master of Tianbao Pavilion is really an interesting person. Yes, he is much smarter than the pride of the sea area. He surrendered as soon as he came up. Unlike that kid, he knew he could not win, but he still wanted to fight. Obviously, instead of saying anything about Lu Dazhu's surrender, they praised him. Of course, the powerful men in the void were also praising Lu Dazhu for his tact at this moment, which made the middle-aged man who was as rich as a country smile. This rebellious son still has some self-awareness. Return to Xinzong. When everyone saw that Lu Dazhu really shouted surrender, they couldn't help but frown. You shouted surrender so loudly that it scared me. Who just said he was a monster? Is he considered a monster? However, this guy is much smarter than that idiot from the Sea tribe. He knew to surrender early on. After hearing this voice, Hai Wuhan, who was walking down, also changed his expression and clenched his fists involuntarily. The Buddhist disciples in the distance were watching this scene quietly with a smile on their faces. Seeing Lu Dazhu coming back, Li Qixin also gave him a thumbs up, showing his white teeth. You kid, you are really something. Lu Dazhu chuckled. Not long after, a voice was heard on the Starry Sky Arena, Xintian territory Luanxin, fighting against Xintian territory Xiongda. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expressions changed slightly. Xiongda also stood up and walked up with a serious expression. Lu Dazhu patted his shoulder and said seriously, Be careful. Xiongda's opponent is very confused. Even if he has a soul bead to protect his heart and soul, it is hard to say what other means the opponent will have. After all, That is a quasi-saint realm existence. Yeah, I know. Xiongda took a deep breath, then smiled and left without looking back. In the distance, Luanxin also slowly stood up, exhaled a breath of black air, and then stepped on the void. In an instant, the figure filled with black air had arrived at the center of the ring. Such speed made many geniuses look shocked, and then their expressions gradually became solemn. They also wanted to see if there was any way to surrender if they really faced Luanxin later. At this moment, the Buddha's son from the Buddha realm, Xian Jie and Xian Xiangling from the God clan, and Hu Yaoyao from the demon realm all opened their eyes and looked straight over here. The existence of the quasi-saint realm is like a mountain in their hearts. Seeing Xiongda coming to the ring, the star envoy announced the start of the battle. As soon as he finished speaking, Luanxin held the magic flute and blew it. At this moment, a huge devil hand grabbed towards Xiongda, filled with thick black evil energy, which seemed to be able to penetrate the flesh and crush a person's soul. This speed is so fast that everyone can see that there is basically no time for surrender. Although Xiongda was holding the soul bead, the moment he truly felt the breath of this quasi-saint, his body couldn't stop shaking and his heart was filled with fear. I am not going to die, am I? However, the next moment, a sacred aura burst out from the magic bead, directly shattering the magic hand. At the same time, the effect of the soul bead itself made Xiongda's mind gradually calm down. He quickly came to his senses and said, "I surrender." Seeing this, Luanxin's magic power surged, and the endless black energy turned into a black spear, trying to pierce through the sky and stab towards him. Xiongda's pupils suddenly shrank, and he could only see the black spear rushing towards him. He could feel that if this move hit him, he would definitely die. At this moment, Xingqian took action. With a cold snort, he shattered the spear, and then with a casual blow, he hit Luanxin so hard that he vomited blood. "If you dare not follow my rules, I will kill you next time." The star envoy said this coldly, and then announced the result of the game calmly. Everyone looked at this scene. Some of them were unable to react. Oh my god, he actually survived. That kid must have a treasure. Yeah, that sacred aura, just now. If it weren't for it, he would definitely be dead. But that quasi-saint actually dared to attack. How arrogant. Fortunately, the star envoy is here. Everyone came to their senses and slowly spoke, sighing. Xiongda was also stunned. After finding that he was still alive, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and then quickly left the ring. On the other side, Luanxin, who had suffered a severe injury, had a look of fear and dread on his face. In an instant, he turned into black gas and disappeared on the spot. Chapter 2, 84 buys. Seeing that Xiongda was fine, Li Qixin and others breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked fiercely at Luanxin in the corner. At this moment, Luanxin's face was pale, and his body, which had just healed, showed signs of breaking under the attack of Xingqian. He spat out a mouthful of blood and hurriedly refined the secret technique. "Serves you right." When Wang Teng and the others saw this, they also showed a cold look. The game is over, but he still wants to take action. He is so arrogant and presumptuous. Why didn't the star envoy slap him to death with one blow? At this moment, Su Li, who was not far away, also saw this scene. Her eyes flashed, and she felt an indescribable disgust towards Luanxin. No, it should be said that she hated the entire Blood God cult immensely. You know, the Blood God cult almost set up an evil formation in the Great Zhou Dynasty to refine them. If it succeeded, all her people and the people she cherished would die in it. Fortunately, Nangong Chen stepped in to save the country from disaster. Thinking of this, Su Li glanced at Nangong Chen, who was practicing, her beautiful eyes flashing with an indescribable meaning. And soon, a voice sounded. "Fairy Su, please return this item to Brother Nangong after you complete your training." At this moment, Xiongda had come to a place not far from Su Li without him noticing. He had a complicated expression on his face and was holding the soul bead tightly in his hand. He spoke nervously. Only when he luckily survived the fight on the ring did he realize how extraordinary the thing before him was. If it weren't for the soul bead, any other magic weapon would not have such an effect, and he would have died here today. His first thought, after surviving, was to return the soul orb to the other party, without even a trace of wanting to keep it for himself. What weighed heavy on his mind was that he didn't know how to repay the other person for saving his life. Su Li raised her hands and gently recalled the soul bead. She was extremely beautiful, nodded slightly, and said softly, "Okay." After hearing this, Xiongda also breathed a sigh of relief and left quickly. "I won't bother you anymore. I'll take my leave now." After he left, Su Li looked at the soul bead in her hand, her beautiful eyes flashing and shining brightly. The inside of the soul bead was as bright as a galaxy, and more like a starry skyball, so beautiful that she felt a lot of admiration for it. Of course, she was just admiring it. She had never thought of possessing it for herself. Even with her relationship with Nangong Chen, they're so familiar with each other. Do you like it? At this moment, Nangong Chen opened his eyes, smiled, and spoke. Suli was a little surprised, but still responded seriously. It looks pretty good. It feels like a smaller version of this place. After hearing this, Nangong Chen was also stunned for a moment. He looked towards the soul bead and found that it was indeed a bit like the sea of stars here, with interwoven and shining stars. Since you like it, I'll give it to you, Nangong Chen said softly. After all, this soul bead is just a saintly weapon, and he currently has no shortage of saintly weapons. It would be better to give it to the other person, which can also protect her shortcomings in terms of her soul. Besides, the shape of this soul bead is quite commemorative. I wonder if one day in the future, when she sees this, she will remember their experience in the immortal treasure. Su Li's delicate face was stunned. She didn't expect that the other party would really give it to her. She immediately shook her head and refused. No, this item is too precious. It's a magical tool that protects the soul, which is extremely rare. It's rare for it to appear in the world. It's better to put it on you. After all, you are the backbone of the entire Tianyuan. After hearing her serious explanation, Nangong Chen also laughed and said softly, "The abyss has never been one person's abyss, nor does it operate because of me alone. It is everyone's abyss. It is called the abyss because of you. You said I was the backbone, but aren't you also my backbone?" After hearing Nangong Chen's blunt words, Su Li's little face suddenly turned red with shame. Only in front of him would she show her unknown side. "Who is your backbone? You are so shameless." Su Li turned her head away and whispered something. Her hands couldn't help but clench her dress tightly. Her heart was beating wildly, and the joy in her eyes could not be concealed. Although she said that, Su Li did not mention returning the soul bead to the other party again. She knew that if she mentioned it again, it might cause the other party to be disgusted. She took out an exquisite jade box, carefully wrapped the soul bead with gauze, put it in the box, and put it back into the storage ring. Seeing the other person staring at her, Su Li's face flushed, and she quietly defended herself. "I'm just afraid it'll get dirty. It won't look good if it gets dirty. That's why I don't like it very much." Okay. Nangong Chen raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and there was a hint of doting in his eyes, unconsciously. Even he himself did not realize that the other person had become a part of his life without him knowing when. Half a day passed, and all the battles of the first day were completed. On the stage, the star envoy calmly read out the list of candidates who would advance. The top 21 are Zhang Tianyu, Xian Jie, Xian Hong. As the candidates who advanced were announced one by one, the geniuses in the audience were filled with mixed thoughts. Some were happy, and some were sad. What is surprising is that among the total number of people who advanced, 8 were from the Xintian domain, and 7 were from the demon domain, which are considered the majority. After hearing this, Li Qixin was also a little excited. He didn't expect that 8 of them would enter the top 20. This was completely beyond their expectations. Those geniuses who were eliminated were not completely discouraged, but sent their blessings to those who advanced. After all, it's a pity that Wang Tong was just a little bit away from advancing to the top 20, but was finally narrowly defeated by the other demon tribe. This made him very depressed. After seeing this, Lu Dezhu stepped forward to comfort him. "If you're eliminated, then so be it. Think about it. If you run into someone with a chaotic heart later, you're doomed, and you might even lose your life." After hearing this, Wang Tong's expression changed slightly, and the depression in his heart immediately dissipated a lot. As for Wu Jian, Jiang Che, Lu Wuxin, and others who were eliminated, they had already let it go. They just couldn't win, and there was nothing they could do. Among them, Lu Wuxin even drew Xian Xiangling from the God Clan today, and was ruthlessly crushed by her. Fortunately, the opponent did not kill him. Those geniuses who advanced to the next round were not too excited, but hurried to practice because the next battles would be tough. Unless you're luckier and draw a demon or something, it will be difficult to beat you. Whether we can make it in the top 10 depends on tomorrow. Li Qixin spoke, his eyes blazing with fighting spirit. "I heard that someone will be given a bye in tomorrow's lottery. I wonder who will be so lucky." Chu Yin spoke at this time, her beautiful eyes flashing. Indeed, among the 21, one person will definitely have a bye, and there will even be a chance to have a bye in the next round. Li Muxiu also nodded, his face shining. At this moment, they have only one goal, which is to enter the top 10. A bye. That's something to look forward to. Not far away, Nangong Chen said with interest that he also wanted to see who would be so unlucky this time. "What if it's you?" Su Li said this in a cold tone. Nangong Chen shook his head. You know, in the original world, he was always in a bad mood. He had never drawn gold even once. Every time, the guaranteed prize came out, no matter what game it was. How could one's fortune change by moving to another world? Su Li was puzzled. Didn't she think Nangong Chen was lucky? Why was he so negative? Of course, she didn't ask in detail, After all, everyone has their own secrets. At this moment, in the outside world, when they saw that there were 8 people among the top 20 candidates, the entire Xiantian domain couldn't help but boil over. Oh my god, this immortal collection is simply the only peak in history, completely breaking all historical records. You know, in the past, only 3 people made it into the top 50. As for the top 20, it was completely unrealistic. God bless my Xiantian realm. God bless my Xiantian realm. After this, we can call ourselves the strongest in the 10 regions without any problem. People were very excited and spoke with fiery expressions. These geniuses who entered the immortal treasure were so powerful that even the Chu family themselves did not expect that the Battle of Geniuses, which was originally just a projection, would become so fierce at this moment. This also indirectly boosted Chucheng, which had the best viewing angle. In recent days, its business has been very hot, with restaurants packed every day and people coming in an endless stream. The most talked about topics are which genius won, which genius lost, who is a coward in the competition, etc. Those who played poorly were naturally subject to much discussion, while those who played well, such as those with double pupils, became extremely famous at this moment and received unimaginable amounts of praise. In the void, those powerful beings are also looking forward to tomorrow's battle for the top 10. Aside from the quasi-saint from the blood god cult, we have 7 geniuses. As long as we don't run into those freaks, our chances of making it into the top 10 are pretty good. Yes, as long as we make it into the top 10 and qualify to enter the Heritage Temple, we'll be good enough. As for the top 5, top 3, or even first place, those are all extravagant hopes. Let's not talk about that chaotic heart for now. Just talking about the monsters of the God Clan, Xian Jia, Xian Xiangling, Hu Yaoyao of the Demon Clan, Fozi of the Buddha Realm, and Hai Wuhan of the Sea Realm. They're all obstacles. If you can defeat one of them, you will become famous all over the world. In this case, the top 5 rankings are extremely valuable. I wonder how far the Double Pupils and the Ice Phoenix Goddess can get. I think they should be in the top 10. The top 5 won't make it. That's hard to say. After all, haven't we ever seen the limits of those with double pupils? At this moment, these powerful people were discussing among themselves, and each had a candidate they supported in their hearts. But even so, they are still not optimistic that anyone can make it into the top 5. The next day, the battlefield of heaven and earth. The star envoy stood on the stage, and as before, he raised his hand, and several streams of light flew over and turned into tokens, which were in the hands of the geniuses in an instant. After receiving it, the geniuses turned it over, wanting to see who their opponents were. When they saw the name on the back of the token, some people wailed and some were worried. I actually drew Hai Wuhan. Little fatty, I'll avenge you. Chao Li looked at the name on the token, spoke confidently, and patted Lu Daju on the shoulder. Come on, you're a peak-level powerful being who hasn't even reached the level of a god king yet. How can you help me get revenge? Lu Daju frowned, then said seriously, Hai Wuhan is very powerful. If you can't defeat him, you must surrender immediately. Don't die there. After hearing this, Chao Li also laughed out loud. I already know this. Do I need a little fat boy like you to remind me? In addition, Li Muxiu and Chu Yan's expressions were not very good either. When others saw this, they also gathered around. After seeing that Li Muxiu drew the Buddha's son and Chu Yan drew the fox Yao Yao, their faces instantly became excited. They also hurried to comfort him several times. Li Muxiu didn't think much of it. After all, being able to make it into the top 20 was already beyond his expectations. If he lost, then so be it. But the opponent I drew is a Buddhist. That will be interesting. Li Muxiu seemed to have thought of something, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. During the battle yesterday, he used his divine eyes to see that the so-called Buddhist disciple had some unknown methods. I don't know if I can force him out today. As for Chu Yan, her pretty face was also calm. She just felt that her luck was a bit bad that she could draw a seeded player. However, she wanted to test the gap between herself and these monsters, so she would not give in easily. She was already very satisfied to be in the top 20. The remaining Li Qixin and Jiang Yingyue were luckier, as they drew 2 geniuses from the demon race, so they could be said to have made it into the top 10. Jiang Yingyue, who was not far away, said nothing. Her face was flawless, and her temperament was cold. She gave off an aura that kept strangers away, which was very consistent with her personality. When Jiang Che saw the other person, as a fellow tribesman, he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, Jiang Yingyue glanced at him coldly and left. Seeing this, Jiang Che clenched his fists and felt a sense of frustration in his heart. It took him a long time to calm down. Su Li opened the token and frowned when he saw that he had drawn another person from the God Clan. That's right, the one she drew was Xian Hong from the God Clan, the 3rd genius of the God Clan. With your strength, defeating him is not a problem. Why are you still not happy? Nangong Chen smiled, and seeing that the other party was a little depressed, he spoke out. Fighting with these arrogant guys will only taint my snow slash. Suli shook her head, explained, and then looked at him. By the way, who did you draw? After hearing this, Nangong Chen's expression changed slightly, with a hint of smile in his eyes, and then he handed the token in his hand to her. By